5 terrifying true Valentine's Day horror stories. Some stories were never meant to be told. Not every Valentine's Day ends with a kiss. Not every heart-shaped box contains sweetness. And not every lover stays dead. There are places where roses rot before they're delivered. Where chocolates taste of copper and ash. Where the knock at your door on February 14th isn't your beloved, but something wearing their face, their smile, their voice, perfected from months of watching you through screens you thought were off. Valentine's Day. A night when the world celebrates love. But love, when it curdles, when it festers, when it refuses to let go, becomes something else entirely. Something that doesn't ask for your heart. It takes it. These are the stories they don't print on greeting cards. The ones that never make it to romantic comedies. The true accounts buried in police reports marked unexplained. The missing person cases that go cold every February 15th. The Valentine's dates that ended not in candlelight, but in silence. In darkness. In graves that were dug long before the reservation was made. Tonight, we descend into 5 real encounters with Valentine's horror. A chocolate box that refills with something far worse than candy. A lover who clawed his way back from death to claim what he believes is his. A dating profile that doesn't just match with you, it hunts you. A marriage vow that binds you forever to something ancient and hungry. And a restaurant where every table is full, but no one has left in decades. These are not legends. These are warnings. Testimonies from those who survived February 14th. And those who didn't. If you've ever received a gift with no name attached, felt watched on a date, or heard someone call your name from an empty room, drop it in the comments below. You might recognize yourself in these stories. The lovers are waiting. The boxes are being filled. The tables are set. And Valentine's Day is forever. Let's begin. Story 1. The Valentine box that keeps filling. It started with a box on my doorstep. I wasn't expecting anything that Valentine's Day. No boyfriend. No secret admirer. Just another February 14th spent alone with a bottle of wine and whatever was on Netflix. So when I came home from work and saw it sitting there, perfectly wrapped in red velvet ribbon, a small heart-shaped tag dangling from the bow, I thought it was a mistake. The box was beautiful. Deep crimson, embossed with gold patterns that swirled like veins beneath skin. The kind of packaging you see in expensive chocolate shop windows, the ones that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I picked it up, turned it over, searching for a name and address, anything. Nothing. Just that little heart tag, blank on both sides. I should have left it there. Should have knocked on my neighbor's door, asked if it was theirs. But curiosity is a wicked thing, isn't it? And I was lonely. And it was Valentine's Day. And some small, pathetic part of me wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone had remembered I existed. I brought it inside. The moment I untied the ribbon, I heard it. A faint sound, barely audible, like a sigh escaping from something that had been holding its breath for far too long. I told myself it was the cardboard settling, the air pressure shifting as I lifted the lid. But deep down, in that place where instinct lives, I knew. I should have thrown it away right then. Instead, I opened it. Inside, nestled in perfect rows on crimson tissue paper, were chocolates. 24 of them, each one shaped like a tiny anatomical heart. Chambers, ventricles, arteries sculpted in dark chocolate with ruby red filling visible through translucent shells. They were grotesquely beautiful. Disturbingly detailed. And they smelled wrong. Not bad exactly. Just wrong. Like roses left too long in a vase. Like perfume sprayed over something rotting. I picked one up. It was cold, far colder than it should have been. The chocolate was smooth, flawless, but when I held it to the light, I swear I saw something moving in the filling. A dark swirl like blood mixing with water. I told myself it was just the way the light hit it. I told myself a lot of things that night. I bit into it anyway. The taste was indescribable. Sweet at first, overwhelmingly so, like honey and cherry and something floral I couldn't name. Then came the aftertaste, metallic, bitter, coating my tongue like I'd been sucking on pennies. I spat it into my hand, disgusted, but the taste wouldn't leave. It clung to the back of my throat, seeping deeper with every swallow. I threw the rest of the chocolate in the bin, closed the box, shoved it in the cupboard beneath my sink, behind the cleaning supplies where I wouldn't have to look at it. That night, I dreamed of hearts beating in boxes, of chocolates that bled when you bit them, of Valentine's cards written in something that wasn't ink. When I woke up, my mouth still tasted of copper, and the box was sitting on my bedside table, full again. I stared at the box, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had shoved it under the sink. I was certain of it. I remembered the scrape of cardboard against the cupboard floor, the clang of the bottle of bleach as I pushed it aside to make room. I remembered closing the cupboard door, hearing the click of the magnetic latch. Yet here it was, sitting on my bedside table like an obedient pet waiting for its owner to wake. I reached out with trembling fingers and lifted the lid. The chocolates were pristine. Perfect rows of tiny hearts, chambers gleaming, not a single one missing despite the one I'd eaten last night. 24 hearts stared back at me, their translucent shells catching the morning light, the dark filling swirling slowly inside each one. Swirling, moving, as if something alive pulsed within. I slammed the lid shut, grabbed the box, marched straight to the rubbish bin outside my building and threw it in, watching it disappear beneath yesterday's takeaway containers and coffee grounds. I even poured my leftover morning tea over it for good measure, watched the liquid seep into the velvet, staining it dark. Good riddance, I muttered and went to work, but I couldn't focus. All day I felt it. A gnawing sensation in my stomach, a metallic taste that wouldn't fade no matter how much water I drank. My colleague Sarah noticed me rubbing my tongue against my teeth and asked if I was all right. Fine, I lied. Just bit my tongue this morning. When I got home that evening, I saw it immediately, sitting on my doorstep. The same box, the same red velvet ribbon, tied in the exact same bow. Not a stain on it, not a wrinkle. As if it had never touched rubbish, never been soaked in tea, never been thrown away at all. My hands shook as I picked it up. It was heavier now, fuller. I brought it inside, I don't know why, perhaps because leaving it outside felt like admitting defeat, and opened it at my kitchen table under the harsh fluorescent light. The chocolates had multiplied. Where there had been 24, there were now dozens, packed tight, spilling over the edges of the box. All those tiny hearts, pulsing, breathing, waiting. I grabbed a bin bag, shoved the entire box inside, tied it tight, drove to the industrial bins behind the supermarket 3 miles away and hurled it into the compactor. I watched the machinery grind and crush, heard the satisfying crunch of cardboard being destroyed. I drove home feeling lighter, victorious. The box was waiting on my passenger seat when I got back to the car. I screamed. Actually screamed there in the car park, slapping at it like it was a spider. It tumbled to the floor, the lid coming loose and chocolate spilled out, rolling under the pedals across the dashboard into the cup holders. Everywhere I looked, tiny anatomical hearts, their shells cracking, dark filling oozing out like blood from a wound. I abandoned the chocolates, left them there, ran into my building, locked my door, shoved a chair under the handle. I didn't sleep that night, just sat on my sofa, lights blazing, watching the door. At 3:47 a.m. I heard it, a soft thud from my bedroom, then another, and another, a rhythmic sound like something heavy being set down repeatedly. I crept to the bedroom doorway and peered inside. Boxes, dozens of them, stacked on my bed, my desk, my dresser, covering every surface, all identical, all tied with red velvet ribbon, all waiting to be opened. And in the silence of my flat, I heard it clearly now. Not one heartbeat, dozens of them, coming from inside the boxes, beating in unison. Thump thump, thump thump, thump thump. I backed away slowly, bile rising in my throat. I grabbed my phone, my keys, and ran. I stayed at Sarah's that night, making up some excuse about a gas leak. She was kind enough not to ask too many questions. The next morning, I returned to my flat with her, needing a witness, needing someone to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. The boxes were gone. All of them. My bedroom looked exactly as I'd left it the morning before. Bed made, curtains drawn, everything in its place. Except for one thing. On my pillow, a single chocolate. Heart-shaped. Perfectly formed. And beneath it, pressed into the fabric, a dark stain that looked disturbingly like blood. Sarah saw it too. Her face went pale. "Maybe you should stay at mine for a few days," she whispered. I nodded, unable to speak. But when I picked up my overnight bag from the wardrobe, I felt the weight shift. Something inside rattled. I unzipped it slowly, dreading what I'd find. The box. Nestled between my clothes. Heavier than before. Fuller than before. And when I lifted the lid, the smell hit me like a fist. Not chocolate anymore, not roses, but something raw. Something organic. Something that had been inside a living body not long ago. I didn't look at what was inside. I couldn't. Because whatever those chocolates had become, they weren't chocolate anymore. I stopped going home after that. Spent 4 nights at Sarah's, then another 3 at a cheap hotel on the outskirts of town. I told myself distance would break whatever connection existed between me and that box. That if I stayed away long enough, it would forget me. Find someone else. I was wrong. On the 5th night at the hotel, I woke to the smell. That sickly sweet rot, stronger now, filling the small room like a fog. My eyes snapped open, and there it was, sitting on the desk by the window, illuminated by the street light outside. The box. The same red velvet, the same ribbon tied in that perfect bow. But it was larger now. The size of a hat box, bulging at the sides as if whatever was inside was pressing outward, desperate to escape. I didn't want to open it. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to check out immediately, to put as many miles between myself and that thing as possible. But I couldn't move. It was as if the box had roots that grew through the floor, through the earth, wrapping around my ankles, holding me in place. I walked towards it. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. My hands moved on their own, untying the ribbon, lifting the lid. The smell intensified, copper and decay and something else, something chemical like formaldehyde. Inside, the chocolates had changed. They were no longer perfect, no longer beautiful. The shells had cracked, revealing what was inside. Human teeth, dozens of them, each one embedded in dark, congealed filling that looked like clotted blood. Molars, incisors, canines, some white and clean, others yellowed with age, a few still attached to fragments of pink gum tissue. They were arranged in neat rows like a dentist's display case. Like trophies. I stumbled backwards, my stomach heaving, but I couldn't look away. Because beneath the teeth I saw something else. Names. Tiny letters carved into the bottom of the box, scratched into the wood with something sharp. Jennifer Hayes, February 14, 2019. Michael Cross, February 14, 2020. Alicia Pemberton, February 14, 2021. David Morrison, February 14, 2023. 12 names in total. All with the same date. February 14th. Different years, but always Valentine's Day. My vision blurred. I backed into the bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left, until I was dry heaving over the toilet, tears streaming down my face. When I finally looked up, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My mouth was bleeding. Not from biting my tongue or cutting my gum. The blood was seeping from between my teeth, dripping down my chin in thin rivulets. I opened my mouth and my reflection did the same. One of my molars, back left, the one that had always been slightly loose, was gone. Just gone. An empty, bleeding socket where it had been. I searched the bathroom floor, the sink, anywhere it might have fallen. Nothing. Then I heard it. From the other room. A soft clink, like something small and hard dropping into the box. I crept to the doorway and looked. The box sat there, lid still open, and inside, a new addition. Fresh. Still slick with blood. My tooth. I don't remember leaving the hotel. Don't remember driving. The next thing I knew, I was parked outside a 24-hour chemist, the box on the passenger seat beside me. I brought it with me. I hadn't meant to, but there it was, like a loyal companion I couldn't shake. Inside the chemist, the harsh lights made everything feel surreal. I bought gauze, antiseptic, painkillers, anything to stop the bleeding, to make sense of what was happening to my body. The clerk, a tired-looking man in his 50s, glanced at my blood-stained chin. "Rough night?" he asked, not unkindly. I nodded, unable to speak. As he rang up my items, his eyes drifted to something behind me. His expression shifted, confusion, then recognition, then something that looked disturbingly like pity. "You got a box too then?" he said quietly. I froze. "What?" He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "My sister. 3 years ago. Started with chocolates. Ended with..." He swallowed hard, couldn't finish. "She didn't make it to February 15th. "What do you mean? What is it? How do I stop it?" He shook his head. "You can't. It chooses who it wants. Feeds slowly at first. A tooth here, a nail there. Things you can lose without dying. But it gets hungrier. And when it's had enough of the small pieces..." He glanced towards the door where through the window I could see my car. See the box sitting in the passenger seat. "It takes the rest. There has to be something." "There's nothing." His eyes were hollow, haunted. "We tried everything. Priests, mediums, burning it, drowning it, burying it 6 feet under concrete. It always came back. And every time it came back, it took more from her. By the end..." His voice cracked. "By the end, there wasn't enough left to bury. I left without my change. Ran to the car, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. The box sat there, silent, patient. I could feel it watching me even though it had no eyes. Could feel it weighing me, measuring me, deciding which piece to take next. I drove to Sarah's. Pounded on her door at 2 a.m., sobbing, begging her to help me. She opened the door in her dressing gown, took one look at my face and went pale. "Oh God. Not you too." "What do you mean, not me too?" She pulled me inside, locked the door, drew all the curtains. "My flatmate. Last year. She got a box on Valentine's Day. I thought she was going mad, the way she talked about it. The way she said it followed her everywhere, that it was taking pieces of her." Sarah's voice shook. I didn't believe her. Not until I found her body 3 weeks later. They said it was suicide. That she'd pulled out all her own teeth, cut off her own fingers, carved pieces from her own body. But it wasn't suicide. No. Sarah's eyes glistened with tears. It was the box. I saw it at the funeral, sitting on the pew beside her mother. Empty by then. It had taken everything it wanted. We sat in silence, the weight of it crushing us both. Then Sarah asked the question I'd been dreading. "Where is it now?" I didn't need to answer. We both heard it at the same time, a soft thud from the hallway. Then another. And another. The box was inside. And from within I heard something new. Not heartbeats anymore. Not the rustle of tissue paper or the clink of teeth. Chewing. Wet, rhythmic chewing. As if something inside the box was feeding. Getting ready for the main course. Sarah and I stood frozen in her living room, listening to the wet, rhythmic sounds coming from the hallway. The chewing was slow, deliberate, accompanied by the occasional crack, like teeth breaking through bone. Something was feeding inside that box and it was taking its time. "We need to leave," Sarah whispered. "Right now." But when she reached for the door handle, it wouldn't turn. Locked from the outside, though that was impossible. We were inside. She pulled harder, throwing her weight against it, but it held fast. The windows too, sealed shut, though they'd been open just hours before when she'd complained about the heating. The box had trapped us. The chewing stopped. Silence fell, thick and suffocating. Then came a new sound, dragging. Something heavy being pulled across carpet. We watched in horror as the box slid into view from the hallway, moving on its own, inching towards us with terrible patience. It was massive now. The size of a steamer trunk, the velvet stretched tight, bulging grotesquely. The ribbon had turned from red to deep crimson, almost black, and it pulsed faintly like a vein. The box stopped at our feet and went still. "Don't open it," Sarah breathed. "Whatever you do, don't." The lid flew open on its own. Inside was a horror I still see when I close my eyes. The chocolates were gone, replaced by something far worse. Body parts. Preserved in that same translucent gel, floating like specimens in formaldehyde. Fingers, toes, an ear. Teeth scattered like seeds. And in the center, perfectly preserved, a human heart. A real one, chambers visible, ventricles dark with old blood. But it was still beating. Thump thump. Thump thump. Thump thump. Pinned to the inside of the lid was a card I'd never seen before. Cream-colored paper, aged at the edges, covered in elegant handwriting. I didn't want to read it. But my eyes betrayed me, scanning the words before I could look away. To my Valentine. You opened the gift. You tasted what I offered. Now the bargain is sealed. A piece of you for a piece of me. A tooth for a heart. A nail for a lung. I've been waiting so long for someone new to share eternity with. The others were consumed too quickly. They fought, they ran, they tried to break our bond. But you're different. You keep coming back. You keep opening the box. By the time you read this, I've already taken 3 teeth, 2 fingernails, and a considerable amount of your blood. Don't worry. I savor slowly. I want this to last. Happy Valentine's Day, my love. Yours eternally, A. My hands flew to my mouth. 3 teeth. I'd only noticed the 1 molar. Frantically, I probed my gums with my tongue. 2 more gaps. Back right. Bottom front. Both bleeding, the sockets fresh and raw. How had I not noticed? Oh God, Sarah gasped. She was staring at my hands. At my fingernails. 2 of them were gone, index and middle finger on my left hand. The nail beds were smooth, scarred over as if they'd been gone for weeks. But they'd been there yesterday. I'd painted them myself on Saturday. The box shuddered. From within, something moved. The heart contracted, pumping blood that shouldn't exist through veins that led nowhere. And then I saw them, beneath the floating organs, beneath the teeth and the fingers, photographs. Dozens of them, submerged in the gel, faces staring up at me with hollow eyes. The names from the bottom of the box. Jennifer Hayes. Michael Cross. Alicia Pemberton. All of them. 12 victims, 12 faces, 12 people who had opened the box and paid the price. But there was a 13th photograph now. Recent. Clear. Devastating. It was me. Taken from outside my bedroom window. Me sleeping, mouth slightly open, completely unaware. And in the photograph, hovering over my sleeping form, was a shadow. Tall, impossibly thin, with elongated fingers reaching towards my face. 1 finger extended, touching my lips as if tasting. The date stamp on the photo read February 11th, 3 days before I'd found the box. It had been watching me even before it arrived. Sarah, we need to. But when I turned, Sarah was gone. The room was empty. I was alone with the box. The walls had changed too, covered now in that same elegant handwriting, the same message repeated hundreds of times. You keep opening the box. You keep coming back. My reflection caught in the window and I froze. It wasn't me anymore. The thing staring back had my face, my body, but its eyes were hollow sockets, its mouth open too wide, and when it smiled, I saw nothing but gaps where teeth should be. It raised its hand, and I watched in horror as more fingernails peeled away, dropping into an invisible box at its feet. I wasn't looking at my reflection. I was looking at my future. The box shuddered violently. The heart inside beat faster, more urgently, and I understood with sudden, terrible clarity. It wasn't just taking pieces of me. It was replacing me. Bit by bit, tooth by tooth, nail by nail, until there was nothing left of who I'd been. Until I was just another specimen floating in gel, another photograph at the bottom, another name carved in wood. Another Valentine. The box began to close on its own, the lid lowering slowly. But before it shut completely, something rolled out. Small. White. Familiar. Another tooth. Still bloody. Still warm. I pressed my tongue to my gums and found a new gap. Upper left canine. Gone. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Only 18 more to go, my love. Then we can be together forever. Happy Valentine's Day. I don't remember Sarah coming back. Don't remember her calling the police, the ambulance, the psychiatrist who evaluated me and recommended rest and observation. I don't remember much of the next few days at all. What I do remember is waking in the hospital on February 15th, one day after Valentine's Day, and feeling my mouth with my tongue. All my teeth were there. Every single one. The gaps were gone, filled in as if they'd never been missing. The nurse who checked my vitals smiled warmly. Feeling better? You gave your friend quite a scare, collapsing like that. But the doctors say you're fine. No injuries. Nothing missing. Just exhaustion and stress. The box, I croaked. Where's the box? She frowned. What box, love? I looked at my hands. All 10 fingernails perfectly intact. I lifted my hospital gown, checked my skin. No scars. No wounds. Nothing. They released me that afternoon with a referral to a therapist and a prescription for anxiety medication. Sarah picked me up, apologizing for overreacting, saying I'd just fainted from stress and she'd panicked. The box. What box? I'd never brought any box to her flat. But I knew better. I knew what I'd seen. What I'd felt. What had been taken from me. That night, back in my own flat, I triple-checked every lock, every window. I shoved furniture against the door. I left every light blazing. And I waited. At 11:47 p.m., the knock came. 3 soft taps on my door. Polite. Patient. I didn't answer. The taps came again. Then again. Then from the window. The walls. The ceiling. Surrounding me, closing in. At 11:59 p.m., I heard it slide under my door. Felt it watching me from the hallway. At midnight, exactly 1 year from that first Valentine's Day, my doorbell rang. I opened the door. I don't know why. Perhaps because fighting was useless. Perhaps because part of me was curious. Perhaps because the box wanted me to, and what the box wants, the box gets. There was no one there. Just a delivery. Sitting on my doormat. Wrapped in red velvet ribbon. A heart-shaped box. Smaller this time. Gift-sized. The tag read, "For my Valentine." Open me. I picked it up. Brought it inside. Set it on my kitchen table under the harsh fluorescent light. And I opened it. Inside was a single chocolate. Heart-shaped. Perfect. Beautiful. And behind it, nestled in crimson tissue paper, 2 items. A photograph of a woman I'd never met. Young. Smiling. Alive. And a note. Her name is Emma Clark. 42 Riverside Drive, Flat 3B. She's alone this Valentine's Day. She's sad. She's lonely. She'll open the box when it arrives. Deliver it by midnight. Make sure she accepts it. Make sure she tastes. This is how you free yourself, my love. Pass it on. Find me a new Valentine. Or become the next heart in my collection. I stared at the address. At the photograph. At the single chocolate waiting to be delivered. I had a choice. Save myself, or save her. At 11:30 p.m., I stood outside 42 Riverside Drive, the box in my hands, newly wrapped, ribbon tied perfectly. I could see light in the 3rd floor window. Could see her shadow moving behind the curtains. All I had to do was leave it at her door. Ring the bell. Walk away. All I had to do was let someone else open the box. I stood there for 20 minutes, my finger hovering over her doorbell, the box growing heavier with every second. At 11:58 p.m., I made my choice. I walked away. Took the box back to my flat. Shoved it under my bed. Turned off my phone. Locked the doors. At midnight, the sounds began. scratching at my windows, breathing in my walls. The wet, rhythmic chewing I remembered so well. My phone, still turned off, buzzed with a message, "Wrong choice, my love. Now you're mine forever." I felt the first tooth loosen, tasted blood on my tongue, watched as my fingernail lifted, peeling away from the flesh beneath. The box slid out from under the bed on its own. And this time when it opened, there was room inside for one more specimen. One more heart. Mine. They found her flat empty 3 days later. No body. No blood. No sign of struggle. Just a red velvet box on the kitchen table, tied with ribbon, with a note that read, "For my Valentine." Inside. Well, the police report was sealed. But the landlord said he'd never rent that flat again. Said sometimes late at night he still hears it. The sound of something chewing. And on February 14th every year, a box appears on the doorstep, waiting for someone new. Someone lonely. Someone who'll open it. She never saw Valentine's Day again, but the box? It found someone new. It always does. Drop a heart in the comments if you're already creeped out, because we're just getting started. And if you've ever received a mysterious gift with no sender, maybe don't tell us. Some stories are better left untold. Story 2, The Lover Who Came Back. There are some losses that hollow you out, that carve away pieces of your soul until you're nothing but a shell walking through the motions of life. That's what losing Daniel did to me. We were supposed to get married on Valentine's Day. The date felt perfect, romantic, memorable, a story we'd tell our children someday. He proposed the year before on the same night, down on one knee in the restaurant where we'd had our first date, a diamond ring catching the candlelight. I'd never been happier. Never felt more certain about anything in my life. Then 1 week before our wedding, his car slid on black ice on the motorway. They said he died instantly. Said he didn't suffer. As if that was supposed to comfort me. As if knowing he was there one moment and gone the next somehow made the grief easier to bear. It didn't. Nothing did. I spent our wedding day alone in the flat we'd shared, surrounded by flowers that were meant for the reception, wearing the dress he'd never see. I know how that sounds. Pathetic, theatrical, the kind of thing you do when you're drowning in grief and can't find the surface. But I needed to say goodbye somehow. Needed to honor what we'd almost had. I took the dress off at midnight, packed it away, and told myself I'd try to move forward. That's what everyone kept saying, wasn't it? You need to move on. Daniel would want you to be happy. Time heals all wounds. All the empty platitudes people offer when they don't know what else to say. But how do you move on from the person who was supposed to be your forever? February 14th came around again. 1 year since the proposal. 1 year since everything had been perfect. I'd taken the day off work, unable to face the office decorations, the flowers being delivered, the couples planning their romantic evenings. Instead, I stayed home with a bottle of wine and a stack of old photographs, torturing myself with memories. By 11 p.m., I was 3 glasses deep and crying over a photo from our holiday in Cornwall. Daniel grinning at the camera, wind in his hair, arm around my shoulders, so alive it physically hurt to look at him. That's when I heard it. 3 soft knocks on my door. Polite. Familiar. The exact pattern Daniel always used when he came home. 2 quick taps, then 1 slow. Our little signal, so I'd know it was him and not a delivery driver or neighbor. My heart stopped. The wine glass slipped from my fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor, but I barely noticed. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Because that knock. No one else knew that pattern. No one. It came again. Tap, tap, tap. I stood on shaking legs and walked to the door like a woman in a trance. My hand hovered over the handle. This was impossible. Daniel was dead. I'd been to his funeral. I'd watched them lower his casket into the ground. I'd thrown dirt onto the lid and felt my heart break with every hollow thud. But what if? What if the hospital made a mistake? What if he'd been in a coma and woke up? What if this past year had been some terrible nightmare and now? I opened the door. Daniel stood on my doorstep exactly as I remembered him. Same dark hair slightly too long that he was always meaning to cut. Same gray eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. Same black wool coat he'd been wearing the night of the accident. He even held flowers, red roses, my favorite, still wrapped in cellophane with tiny droplets of water clinging to the petals. And he was smiling. That soft, familiar smile that had made me fall in love with him 5 years ago. "Hello, love," he said, his voice exactly right. "Exactly, Daniel. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was murder." He stepped forward, and every instinct in my body screamed at me to slam the door, to run, to call for help. Because despite the smile, despite the flowers, despite the perfect replication of everything that made him Daniel, his eyes didn't blink. His chest didn't rise and fall with breath. And when he moved, his joints made a sound like old wood creaking in the wind. But I stepped aside anyway. And I let him in. Daniel walked into our flat, my flat, with the easy familiarity of someone who'd done it 1,000 times before. He set the roses on the kitchen counter, shrugged off his coat, and hung it on the hook by the door. The same hook he'd always used. Everything was so perfectly, painfully normal that for a moment I almost believed it. Almost convinced myself that the past year had been the nightmare, and this, him standing in my kitchen, smiling at me, was reality finally correcting itself. "You've rearranged the furniture," he said, looking around. "I like it. Opens up the space." I'd moved the sofa 3 months after he died, unable to bear sitting in the same spot where we'd watched films together, where he'd fallen asleep with his head in my lap. But Daniel couldn't know that. Shouldn't know that. "How?" My voice came out as a whisper. "How are you here?" He turned to me, that gentle smile still fixed on his face. "What do you mean? It's Valentine's Day. Where else would I be? Daniel, you're..." I couldn't say it. Couldn't speak the word that would make this real, would shatter whatever impossible miracle had brought him back. "You've been gone. For a year." "A year?" He laughed, but the sound was wrong. Too hollow. Like an echo in an empty room. "Don't be daft. I was just away. But I'm here now. That's what matters, isn't it?" He moved towards me, arms outstretched for a hug, and that's when I noticed. His movements were too smooth, too fluid, like a puppet on strings being controlled by someone who'd studied how humans move but didn't quite understand it. There were no small imperfections. No scratch of his jaw, no adjustment of his collar, none of the tiny unconscious gestures that make a person real. And his eyes. God, his eyes. They stared without blinking, focused on me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. I'd looked into those eyes 1,000 times, seen love and laughter and sleepiness and frustration. But these eyes, though identical in color and shape, held nothing. They were windows to an empty room. "Come here," he said softly. "I've missed you." I stepped back instinctively. "You're not breathing." He paused, head tilting slightly, too far, at an angle that made my stomach lurch. "Of course I am. See?" His chest rose and fell in an exaggerated motion, but it was mechanical, deliberate. Not the automatic rhythm of lungs needing oxygen. It was breathing as performed by something that didn't need air. "Your hands," I whispered, my gaze dropping to where they hung at his sides. "They're blue." He looked down as if noticing for the first time. His fingers were a pale, mottled blue-gray, the color of a body that had been in cold storage. In the warmth of the flat, they should have warmed, should have flushed with blood. But they remained that same corpse shade, and when he flexed them, the joints cracked like ice. "Just cold out," he said easily. "You know how I get in winter. Terrible circulation." That was true. The real Daniel had always complained about cold hands. But this wasn't circulation. This was the absence of life. "Daniel, please." Tears burned my eyes. "What's happening? What are you?" His smile never wavered. "I'm your fiancé. And it's Valentine's Day. We were supposed to get married today, remember? We still can." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. The same box. The same engagement ring he'd given me a year ago. The one I'd returned to his mother after the funeral because I couldn't bear to look at it. How do you have that? My voice shook. I gave that back to your mom. She gave it back to me. For tonight. He opened the box, the diamond catching the light, exactly as it had that perfect night in the restaurant. Marry me, love. Like we planned. We can still have forever. You're dead. The words ripped out of me raw and terrible. You died on the motorway. I was at your funeral. I watched them bury you. For the first time his smile faltered. Something flickered across his face. Confusion, perhaps, or irritation. That doesn't matter now. I'm here. We're together. Isn't this what you wanted? Didn't you cry yourself to sleep every night wishing I'd come back? I had. God help me, I had. I'd begged the universe, made bargains with a God I didn't believe in, screamed into my pillow that I'd give anything, to have him back. And now something had listened. Come on, he said, his voice taking on a harder edge. Don't ruin this. We're celebrating. Together. Like we're supposed to. He moved to the wine rack, selected the expensive Merlot we'd been saving for a special occasion, and poured 2 glasses with movements that were almost right but slightly too precise, too measured. He handed me a glass. His fingers brushed mine and the cold of his skin burned like ice. I looked down and saw frost forming where he'd touched me, tiny crystals spreading across my skin. To us, he said, raising his glass. To forever. I didn't drink. Couldn't. My throat had closed with terror. But Daniel, or the thing wearing Daniel's face, tipped his glass back and swallowed. The wine dribbled from the corners of his mouth, running down his chin because his throat didn't work, couldn't swallow. The liquid just pooled at the base of his neck, staining his collar dark red. He didn't seem to notice. I've been thinking, he said conversationally as wine continued to leak from his unmoving throat. We should have the wedding here. Tonight. Why wait? We've waited long enough, haven't we? Daniel, you need to leave. I set the glass down with trembling hands. Please. I don't know what you are, but you need to go. His expression hardened. The smile remained, but it stretched wider, too wide, the corners of his mouth pulling back past where they should stop. I'm not leaving. We're getting married. Tonight. You promised me forever, remember? Till death do us part. Well, death already came. Now there's nothing to part us. That's not how it works. Isn't it? His voice boomed, and for the first time, something other than emptiness filled those eyes. Anger. Possession. Hunger. I came back for you. I clawed my way back. Do you know how hard that was? How much it hurt? The things I had to do, the bargains I had to make. He grabbed my wrist, his grip like a vice made of frozen meat. Ice spread from his touch, crawling up my arm, and I screamed, trying to pull away. But he held tight, leaning close until I could see that his eyes weren't just unblinking. They were filmed over, clouded with the milky white of death. You're mine, he whispered, and his breath smelled of earth and decay. You said yes. You put on the dress. You waited for me. That's a promise. And I'm here to collect. I wrenched free, stumbling backward, my arm burning with cold. Where he'd gripped me, my skin had turned white, then blue, frost patterns spreading like lace across my flesh. You're not Daniel, I sobbed. Daniel loved me. He'd never hurt me. The thing wearing his face laughed, and it was the worst sound I'd ever heard, Daniel's laugh, but hollow, echoing from somewhere deep and dark and endless. Love. Oh, darling. I love you more now than I ever did when I was alive. So much I refused to leave. So much I came back. So much that I'll never, ever let you go. He advanced slowly, backing me against the wall. We're going to be together forever. Just like you wanted. Just like you prayed for. You begged for me to come back. His hand reached up, stroking my cheek with fingers that left trails of ice and rotting flesh. And I always keep my promises. I tried to run. Bolted for the door, my frozen arm hanging uselessly at my side, But Daniel moved faster than anything living should be able to. One moment he was across the room. The next he was blocking the doorway, that terrible smile still stretched across his face. "Where are you going?" he asked, voice syrupy with false sweetness. "The night's just begun. We have so much to celebrate. Get out of my way." "Our way," he corrected. "This is our flat, remember? Our home. The place where we were going to start our life together." He gestured around the room, and I noticed for the first time that things had changed. The photographs on the walls, photos I'd taken down months ago because seeing his face hurt too much, were back up. Our engagement photo sat on the mantel. The couple's coffee mugs we'd bought on holiday were sitting on the counter, steam rising from them though I hadn't made any tea. The flat was transforming around me, reverting to how it had been when he was alive. Or rather, to how it would have been if we'd gotten married. "Stop it," I whispered. "Please just stop." "Stop what? Making our home perfect? Getting ready for our celebration?" He moved closer, each step accompanied by that awful creaking sound like old floorboards or breaking ice. "I know you've been sad, love. I know this year's been hard. But I'm fixing it now. Making everything right again." "You can't fix death, Daniel. You can't." "Don't call me that." His voice went sharp, cold. "Don't talk about death like it's something that matters. Like it's something that can keep us apart. I told you, death do us part is over. We're past that now. We're in the forever part." He reached for me again and I dodged, putting the sofa between us. My frozen arm throbbed with a deep, bone-aching cold that was spreading towards my shoulder. I could see the skin turning gray, the flesh hardening like meat left too long in a freezer. "You need help?" I said desperately. "Whatever brought you back, whatever's making you like this, there has to be a way to stop it. To let you rest. To let you be at peace." His laugh was bitter. "Peace? I had peace. I was in the ground, rotting, while you were up here crying yourself to sleep every night. Do you know what that's like? Hearing your sobs through 6 feet of earth? Feeling your grief like rain seeping through soil? I couldn't rest, love. Not while you were suffering. Not while you were alone." He vaulted over the sofa with inhuman grace, landing beside me. I scrambled backwards, but he caught my good arm, his grip gentler this time but no less cold. Where he touched, frost bloomed like flowers across my skin. "I came back for you," he said, and something in his voice almost sounded like the Daniel I'd loved. Almost. Because we were supposed to have forever. Because you shouldn't be alone on Valentine's Day. Because I love you. If you love me, you'll leave. You'll let me go. No. The word was final, absolute. That's not how love works. Love holds on. Love refuses to let go. Love. He pulled me closer until I was pressed against his chest, feeling no heartbeat, no warmth, just the terrible cold of a body that should be buried. Love never dies. I tried to push away, but my strength was fading. The cold was spreading through my body now, slowing my movements, making my thoughts sluggish. My lips were turning blue. My breath came in short, painful gasps that fogged in the air despite the flat's heating. "There's my girl," Daniel murmured, holding me tighter. "Stop fighting. Just accept it. We're together now. Forever and ever and ever." Through the window I saw movement. My neighbor, Mrs. Chin from across the hall, walking past with her dog. I tried to scream, to call for help, but Daniel's hand clamped over my mouth. His palm was soft with decay, and I felt pieces of his skin slew off against my lips. "Shoo," he whispered. "Don't spoil the moment. This is our special night." Mrs. Chin passed by without looking. Through the window, I watched her disappear down the hallway, taking my last hope with her. "You see," Daniel said, "no one's going to interrupt us. No one can see me but you. That's how it works. I'm here for you and only you. Isn't that romantic?" He released my mouth and I gasped for air, my lungs burning with cold. "What do you want from me?" "I told you. I want to get married. I want our forever. I want you to stop fighting what we both know is inevitable. He cupped my face with both hands, his touch leaving frost patterns on my cheeks. I want you to say yes. To what? To coming with me. His smile widened impossibly. To joining me. To being together the way we're meant to be. No more separation. No more grief. No more loneliness. Just us. Together. Forever. You're asking me to die. I'm asking you to choose love. He tilted his head, and I heard the wet crack of vertebrae that no longer moved properly. You said you'd give anything to have me back. Well, I'm back. Now it's your turn. Give me what I gave you. Give me everything. No. The word came out weak, barely a whisper, but it was there. No, I won't. His expression darkened. The smile remained, but something behind his eyes shifted. Something old and hungry and nothing like the man I'd loved. You don't have a choice, darling. I didn't crawl out of my grave to be rejected. I didn't claw through 6 feet of earth, didn't break through my coffin lid, didn't drag this rotting body through the streets just to hear you say no. He grabbed my frozen arm, squeezing the dead flesh, and agony shot through me. This arm is already gone. See, the cold spread. You can't even feel it anymore, can you? In a few hours, it'll have to be amputated. The frostbite is too severe. And that's just from a few touches. Imagine what happens if I hold you all night. If I wrap you in my embrace and don't let go. Tears streamed down my face, freezing on my cheeks. Please, please don't do this. I love you, he said, and somehow that made it worse. I love you so much I can't let you live without me. It's not fair. You promised me forever and I'm going to have it. One way or another. He pulled me towards the bedroom and I saw that it had changed too. The bed was made with the white linens we'd picked out for our wedding night, never used. Candles burned on every surface, their flames casting shadows that moved wrong, that reached for me with dark fingers. And on the bed, laid out carefully, was my wedding dress. Put it on, Daniel said. It's time. Time for what? For the wedding. For the vows. For the binding. He gestured to the corner and I saw them, other figures standing in the shadows. Dead eyes watching. Rotting faces smiling. I brought witnesses. Former couples who understood what love really means. Who refused to let death separate them. They'll watch us exchange vows. Make it official. The figures stepped forward into the candlelight, and I saw their states of decay, some recent, some ancient, all of them holding hands with their undead partners, all of them smiling with that same terrible, empty smile. No, I sobbed. God, no, please. God isn't here, Daniel said softly. Just us. Just love. The kind that lasts forever. The kind that doesn't end. The kind that won't let go even when it should. He picked up the wedding dress, the white fabric pristine and perfect, and held it out to me. Put it on. Marry me. Join me. Or I'll hold you until the cold takes you anyway and you'll come back like I did, empty and hollow and desperate. At least this way you'll remember choosing it. Choosing me. Choosing us. My vision swam. The room tilted. The cold had spread to my chest now, was slowing my heart, freezing my blood in my veins. I could feel myself dying by inches, could feel the warmth draining from my body like water from a cracked cup. Daniel, I whispered, my lips barely moving. The Daniel I loved, he would never do this. He'd want me to live, to be happy, to move on. Something flickered in those dead eyes. Just for a moment. A shadow of recognition of the man he'd been. I know, he said, and his voice cracked. I know he would. But I'm not him anymore. I'm what love becomes when it rots. When it festers in the grave. When it refuses to die even when the body does. His hand stroked my hair, gentle despite the decay. And I'm so sorry. But I can't stop. I tried to stay buried. Tried to rest. But every night I heard you crying for me, begging me to come back, and every night it pulled me closer to the surface. Your grief was a rope and I climbed it. Your love was a chain and it dragged me from my grave. He leaned closer, his forehead touching mine, and I felt the cold seep deeper. You called me back, love. And now I'm here. And now we're both trapped. Me in this rotting shell. You in a love that won't let either of us go. The wedding dress slipped from his fingers, pooling at our feet like spilled milk. So put on the dress, he whispered. And let's finish what we started. Let's have our forever. I don't remember picking up the dress. Don't remember my frozen fingers closing around the fabric. But suddenly it was in my hands, cold and heavy as a burial shroud, and Daniel was smiling that terrible, stretched smile, and the dead witnesses in the corner were swaying back and forth like guests at a ceremony only they could hear. That's it, Daniel encouraged. That's my girl. Just slip it on. It'll be beautiful. You'll be beautiful. Just like I always imagined. My hands moved without permission, lifting the dress, and some distant part of my mind screamed at me to drop it, to run, to fight. But the cold had spread too far. My thoughts came slow and thick like honey in winter. And underneath the terror, underneath the revulsion, there was something else. Relief. Because if I put on the dress, if I said the vows, if I let the cold take me, the pain would stop. The grief that had consumed me for a year would finally end. I'd be with Daniel again, or what was left of him. And wasn't that what I'd wanted? Hadn't I begged for this? I knew you'd understand, Daniel said softly, watching me with those milky, dead eyes. I knew you'd see. Love doesn't end, darling. It just changes form. The dress was halfway over my head when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong. A sound from the world of the living. My phone. Ringing. Buzzing on the kitchen counter where I'd left it. Daniel's head snapped towards it, neck cracking with the movement. Don't answer that. But the sound had broken through the fog in my mind. I dropped the dress, stumbling towards the counter, my frozen arm hanging useless, my good hand reaching desperately for the phone. Daniel moved to intercept, but I was closer. I grabbed it, saw the name on the screen. Emily. My sister. The one person who'd refused to let me drown in grief, who'd called every day for months, who'd shown up at my door when I stopped answering. I swiped to answer, but before I could speak, Daniel's hand closed over the phone. I spread across the screen, cracking it, silencing it. The call dropped. No interruptions, he said, his voice no longer soft. Not tonight. Tonight is ours. She'll come, I gasped. When I don't answer, she'll come check on me. She always does on Valentine's Day. Yes, I know. Daniel's smile turned cruel. Which is why we need to hurry. The vows first, then the binding, then. He gestured to the corner, where the dead witnesses had moved closer, forming a circle around us. Then you join us, before anyone can interfere. He grabbed my shoulders, his grip tight enough to bruise what flesh wasn't already frozen. I didn't want to rush this. Wanted it to be perfect, romantic. But you're making this difficult, love. You're making me do things I don't want to do. From his coat pocket, still hanging by the door, something fell. Landed on the floor with a heavy thud. I stared at it, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. A ring. But not the engagement ring. This one was different. Tarnished silver with strange symbols etched into the band. And inside the circle of metal, grave dirt. Still damp. Still fresh. Do you know what that is? Daniel asked, following my gaze. It's a binding ring. Found it in a tomb during one of my digs before. Before. Thought it was just an artifact. Interesting historical piece. Didn't realize it was a promise. A contract. A way to chain two souls together across death. He picked it up, brushed off the dirt with decaying fingers. The night I proposed, I was wearing it. Just for safekeeping. Planning to catalog it the next day. When I died. His voice grew distant. I was still wearing it. Buried with it. And it called to me in the dark. Whispered that death didn't have to mean separation. That love could conquer the grave. That all I needed was to bind you to me properly this time and we'd never be apart. He held it up to the candlelight. The symbols seemed to writhe in the flickering glow. Put this on, say the vows I teach you, and we'll be bound. Forever. Your life to my death. Your warmth to my cold. Your soul to my hunger. Together. Always. Exactly as it should be. That's not love, I choked out. That's possession. It's the same thing. His shout echoed through the flat, and the candles flared brighter, casting his face in sharp relief. For a moment, just a moment, I saw beneath the familiar features. Saw what he really was. Something ancient and hollow wearing Daniel's face like a mask. Something that had existed long before my fiancée died and would exist long after. The ring hadn't called to Daniel. It had consumed him. Please, I begged, and I wasn't talking to the thing in front of me anymore. I was talking to whatever remained of the man I'd loved, buried somewhere deep inside this horror. Please, if you're still in there, if any part of you is still Daniel, let me go. You wouldn't want this. You'd want me to live, to heal, to find happiness again someday. For a heartbeat, the grip on my shoulders loosened. The terrible smile faltered. And in his eyes, those awful dead eyes, I saw a flicker of something. Recognition. Sorrow. Love. Real love, not the rotted thing that had crawled from his grave. I'm sorry, he whispered, and it was Daniel's voice. Truly his. I'm so sorry. I can't stop it. It's in me. It's controlling me. I don't want to hurt you, but it won't let me leave. Won't let me rest. Won't let you. The moment shattered. His face contorted, neck snapping to an impossible angle, and when he spoke again, it was with that hollow, echoing voice that belonged to the ring. Enough. No more delays. Put on the ring. Now. He lunged for me, the silver band glinting in his hand. I threw myself backwards, crashing into the kitchen table. The vase of roses, the ones he'd brought, toppled, water and petals spilling across the floor. And mixed with the water, something else. Something dark and thick. Blood. Old blood, dried on the stems, now rehydrating, spreading across the floor in rust-colored streaks. How many graves had he robbed to bring me flowers? Daniel advanced, stepping through the blood water without noticing. The dead witnesses closed in from all sides, their rotting hands reaching for me, ready to hold me down while he forced the ring onto my finger. I grabbed the only weapon I could reach, a kitchen knife from the block on the counter. It was absurd, really. How do you stab something that's already dead? But I held it anyway, my hand shaking, the blade catching the candlelight. Don't make me hurt you, Daniel said, but he was still coming closer. Just accept it. Accept us. Accept forever. I'd rather die on my own terms than live on yours. His face twisted with rage and grief and something that might have been love, once, before it rotted. Then die you shall, my darling. But you'll still be mine. The ring works both ways. Kill yourself and I'll just drag you back. Bind you when you're too weak to fight. We'll be together regardless. The only question is whether you come willingly, or screaming. The dead witnesses were close enough now that I could smell them. Earth and decay and something sweet sickly that turned my stomach. Their hands reached for me, mouths opening in silent invitation to join their eternal wedding party. I looked at Daniel, at the thing wearing his face, and made my choice. I ran. Straight at him, knife raised, not to stab but to push past. He grabbed for me, fingers closing on my frozen arm, but the dead flesh tore away in his grip, chunks of it staying in his hand while I stumbled free. The pain was distant, muted by cold and adrenaline. I reached the door, yanked it open. The hallway beyond was dark, empty, but it was away, and that was all that mattered. You can't run from me. Daniel's voice echoed behind me, and I heard the heavy thud of footsteps. His and the witnesses, a parade of the dead giving chase. I'll find you. I'll always find you. You're mine. You promised. You put on the dress. You. I slammed the door shut and ran, leaving pieces of my frozen arm trailing behind me like breadcrumbs. Mrs. Chen's door. I pounded on it with my good hand, screaming for help. She opened it, took one look at my blue lips and frozen flesh, and yanked me inside. "Call 999, I gasped. "Please. He's..." But when we looked back at my door, it was closed. Silent. The hallway was empty. Mrs. Chen called the ambulance anyway. Held me while I shook and cried and babbled about dead fiancés and binding rings and witnesses from beyond the grave. She didn't believe me, I could see it in her eyes, but she stayed with me until the paramedics arrived. They took my arm. Had to amputate it at the shoulder. The frostbite was too severe, the tissue too damaged. They asked how it happened and I lied. Told them I'd fallen asleep drunk with my arm against a frozen pipe. They didn't quite believe me, but what else could they say? Emily came. Stayed with me through the surgery, through the recovery, through the nightmares that followed. She never mentioned that when she called on Valentine's night, she'd heard voices in the background. Plural. Enchanting. I sold the flat. Couldn't bear to go back. The new owners called me 3 months later, furious. Demanded to know why I hadn't disclosed the history. Why I hadn't told them about the stains that wouldn't come out of the bedroom floor. About the cold spot by the door that no amount of heating could fix. About the sounds they heard every February 14th. Footsteps pacing the rooms, voices whispering vows in languages no one spoke, the smell of roses and rot. I hung up without answering. Last Valentine's Day, 1 year after everything, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a photograph. Me asleep in my new flat, in my new bed, in what I'd thought was my new life. And standing beside the bed, watching me with those hollow eyes, was Daniel. On the back of the photograph, written in handwriting I'd once loved, were 3 words. Forever means forever. The wedding dress arrived the next morning. And every morning since. Each day it appears. Hung in my wardrobe, pressed and perfect, waiting. I burn them. Throw them away. Donate them. Destroy them. They always come back. Because Daniel was right about one thing. Love doesn't die. Sometimes I wish it would. The cemetery groundskeeper reported hearing wedding bells that night, from inside the graves. 6 freshly dug plots, all dated February 14th, all found empty by morning. The bodies were never recovered. But every Valentine's Day, couples go missing in that city. Always pairs. Always found together. Always smiling. And always wearing wedding rings that no one can remove. If this story gave you chills, smash that subscribe button. You'll need it for what's coming next. And if you've ever felt like someone was watching you sleep, maybe don't check the photos on your phone. Some things are better left unseen. Story 3, the dating profile that hunts. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who used dating apps. Always seemed desperate, you know? Like admitting defeat. But after 2 years single, watching all my mates settle down, spending every Friday night alone with a takeaway and Netflix, I figured, why not? What's the worst that could happen? I downloaded the app on February 10th. 4 days before Valentine's Day. Told myself it was just to browse to see what was out there. No pressure. No expectations. Just looking. The interface was slick. Swipe left for no, swipe right for yes. Simple. Efficient. Designed to make human connection feel like shopping. I scrolled through dozens of profiles. Smiling faces, carefully curated photos, bios that all blurred together. Love to travel. Gym enthusiast. Looking for something real. Nothing clicked. I was about to delete the app, write it off as a failed experiment, when her profile appeared. Sophia. The photo stopped me mid-swipe. She was stunning, yes, but it was more than that. There was something familiar about her face, though I was certain we'd never met. Dark hair, pale skin, eyes that seemed to look directly through the camera. Directly at me. Her bio was simple. Looking for someone who understands that some connections transcend the physical. Someone willing to meet me halfway. Someone brave enough to see beyond the surface. Are you the one? It should have been a red flag. Too vague. Intense for a dating profile. But I was lonely and it was nearly Valentine's Day and she was beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. I swiped right. The match was instant. Like she'd been waiting for me. Before I could even process it, a message appeared. "Hello, Marcus. I've been hoping you'd find me." My blood went cold. I'd never told the app my name. I'd used my initials, MJ, for privacy. The app didn't have access to my real identity. It couldn't. I stared at the message, finger hovering over the screen. This was wrong. I should unmatch, delete, forget. But another message came through before I could. "Don't be afraid. I just want to talk. To get to know you. Isn't that what this is for?" I told myself it was a lucky guess. Or maybe a mutual friend had mentioned me. Or perhaps the app had pulled data from somewhere. There were a dozen logical explanations. I typed back, "How do you know my name?" The response was immediate. "I know lots of things about you, Marcus. I know you live at 42 Ashford Road, flat 2A. I know you work at the marketing firm on High Street. I know you drink black coffee every morning at the cafe on the corner, and you always sit by the window. I know you're lonely. I know you're looking for connection. I know you're reading this message right now, sitting on your sofa, wearing the gray jumper with the hole in the left sleeve." I looked down. Gray jumper. Hole in the left sleeve. I shot up from the sofa, spinning around, scanning my flat for cameras, for hidden devices, for any explanation. The curtains were drawn. No one could see in. My laptop camera was covered. My phone. I grabbed it, checked the permissions, the background apps. Nothing suspicious. Another message. "I'm not in your flat, Marcus." Not yet. But I'm closer than you think. I should have deleted the app right then. Blocked her. Called the police. Reported the stalker. But my hands were shaking too badly to navigate the menus. And another part of me, the stupid, curious, self-destructive part, wanted to know how she was doing this. "Who are you?" I typed. "I'm Sophia. And I think we could be perfect for each other. Why don't we meet? Valentine's Day. There's a lovely restaurant on Maple Street. The one you walked past last Tuesday and thought about trying. I'll book us a table. 8 p.m. Say yes, Marcus. Please say yes." I'd never mentioned that restaurant to anyone. Had barely thought about it myself. Just a fleeting consideration as I'd passed by on the way to the gym. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. This was some elaborate scam or a prank or... My phone buzzed. Not the app this time. A text message. From an unknown number. "I can see you're scared. That's okay. Fear and love are closer than you think. Both make the heart race. Both consume you. Both make you feel alive. Meet me on Valentine's Day, and I'll show you what I mean. I promise, you'll never forget me." Attached to the message was a photo of me on my sofa, right now, this exact moment, taken from inside my flat. I spun again, searching every corner, every shadow. Nothing. No one. Just me, alone in my locked flat, being watched by someone. Something that shouldn't be able to see me. The dating app pinged again. "See you soon, Marcus. I'll be the one you can't stop thinking about. The one you can't escape. The one who's already inside." And then, impossibly, I saw movement on my phone screen. Not in the app. In my reflection. In the black mirror of the locked screen. Behind me. A face. Pale. Dark-haired. Smiling. Sophia. But when I turned around, there was nothing there. Just my empty flat. And the growing certainty that I was not, and had never been, alone. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that face in my phone's reflection. Sophia's face. Pale and perfect and smiling at me from somewhere that shouldn't exist. I checked everything. Twice. 3 times. All the windows were locked. The door was bolted. I'd searched every room, every cupboard, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. Nothing. No one. I was alone. But the messages kept coming. "You should eat something, Marcus. You've barely touched food all day. The pasta's going to go off if you don't use it soon. I looked at my fridge. At the fresh pasta I'd bought 3 days ago, tucked in the back. Pasta I hadn't told anyone about. Pasta I'd forgotten I even had. I worry about you. You work too hard. Stay up too late. Don't take care of yourself the way you should. But that's going to change. When we're together, I'll make sure you eat properly, sleep properly, live properly. My hands shook as I typed, "Leave me alone. I'm going to the police." And tell them what? That a dating app is messaging you? That you matched with someone who knows things about you? They'll ask if you've given anyone your address, your work details, your routine. And you'll have to admit you've posted all of it publicly. Your Instagram shows your morning coffee shop. LinkedIn has your workplace. Your Facebook check-ins have mapped your entire life. You gave me everything I needed to know you, Marcus. You invited me in. She was right. God help me, she was right. Every detail she knew I'd shared somewhere. Digital breadcrumbs I'd scattered across the internet without thinking, never imagining someone would collect them all. Piece them together. Use them. But that didn't explain the photo. The one taken from inside my flat. I know what you're thinking. How did I take that picture? How did I see you when I wasn't there? Another message. She was reading my thoughts now, anticipating them. The truth is simpler than you imagine. And more complicated. But you'll understand soon. On Valentine's Day. When we finally meet face to face. Or screen to screen. What does that mean? No response. The app went silent. I stared at it for 10 minutes, waiting, but Sophia didn't reply. I tried to unmatch her. The button was grayed out. Tried to delete the app. It reinstalled itself immediately. Tried to block the unknown number that had texted me. The messages kept coming anyway. I gave up around 3 a.m. and fell into fitful sleep on the sofa, phone clutched in my hand, every light in the flat blazing. I woke to my alarm at 7 a.m. Stumbled to the shower, trying to wash away the paranoia and exhaustion. When I came out, towel wrapped around my waist, there was a new message waiting. You have a scar on your left shoulder. From when you were 12. Fell off your bike trying to impress Emma Richardson. You've never told anyone that story. I looked down at my shoulder. At the small, faded scar I barely noticed anymore. A scar from a childhood accident I'd never mentioned to anyone, never posted about, never shared. How could she possibly know? My phone rang. Unknown number. The same one from last night. I answered without thinking, some desperate part of me needing to hear a human voice, to confirm this was real. Hello, Marcus. Her voice was soft, feminine, with an accent I couldn't place. Like she was from everywhere and nowhere at once. Did you sleep well? I watched you dream. You were restless. Kept calling out for someone named Emma. First love. How are you doing this? My voice came out hoarse. How are you watching me? I'm not watching you, darling. I'm with you. I've been with you since the moment you swiped right. Since you invited me into your phone. Your life. Your world. She laughed, and it sounded like static, like interference. Did you know the average person checks their phone 96 times a day? Looks at a screen for nearly 7 hours? You're all so connected to your devices, you don't even notice when something else starts looking back. You're insane. I'm hanging up. I'm going to work? Yes, I know. You have a meeting at 9:30 with the new client. The coffee company. You're worried about the presentation. Afraid Jenkins is going to steal your ideas again like he did last quarter. You're going to wear the blue shirt because you think it makes you look more confident, even though it needs ironing. I looked at my wardrobe. At the blue shirt hanging there, creased from being stuffed in the back. Stop it. My voice shook. Just stop. What do you want from me? I told you. I want to meet you. Valentine's Day. 8 p.m. Maple Street. I've already made the reservation under your name. All you have to do is show up. Her voice softened. Please, Marcus. I've been so lonely. Waiting. Searching. swiping through thousands of faces looking for the right one. And then I found you. You're perfect. You're exactly what I need. I'm not meeting you. I'm deleting this app, throwing away this phone, and buying a new one? She laughed again. Go ahead. I'll be there too. I'll be in every screen you look at, every device you touch. Because I'm not in the phone, Marcus. I'm in you now. In your data. Your digital footprint. Your online soul. You can't delete me any more than you can delete yourself. The line went dead. I threw the phone across the room. Watched it hit the wall and clatter to the floor, screen cracking. Let it break. Let it. My laptop chimed. A notification. From the dating app. Sophia's profile picture filled the screen, even though I'd never opened the app on my computer, had never even logged in here. Breaking things won't help, love. I'm everywhere you are. Everywhere you've ever been online. Every site you've visited, every form you've filled out, every password you've saved. You've built me a home in your digital life. And I'm very, very comfortable here. My work computer pinged. Same message. The smart TV turned on by itself, displaying her profile. Even the microwave's digital display flickered, showing letters one at a time. S-O-P-K. I ran. Grabbed my keys and wallet and ran out of the flat in yesterday's clothes, desperate to get away from the screens, from her eyes, from the suffocating certainty that she was watching my every move. The lift display showed her face as I descended. Smiling. Waving. Outside, the February air was sharp and cold, but it felt like freedom. I walked without direction, leaving my phone behind, just walking and breathing and trying to process what was happening to me. I made it 3 blocks before I saw it. A billboard. Digital. Advertising perfume. Except the model's face had changed. It was Sophia. Looking down at me. Mouthing words I couldn't hear but somehow understood. You can't run from me. The bus shelter display showed her profile. The cash machine screen displayed her messages. Even the window of the electronics shop, rows of televisions all tuned to different channels, they all showed the same thing now. Her. Watching me from 100 screens at once. I stumbled into a cafe, the one where I got my morning coffee, where I always sat by the window. The barista knew my order. Black coffee. No sugar. Comfort in routine. Rough morning, Marcus? She asked, and I nearly jumped. How did she know my name? I'd never told her my. She pointed to her screen. The ordering system. It already had my name entered. My usual order queued up. And underneath, paid for by Sophia. She says to tell you she's sorry for frightening you. She just wants to talk. Valentine's Day. 8 p.m. Please don't make her wait. I didn't. Who paid for this? I stammered. The barista shrugged. Came through the app about 2 minutes ago. Some kind of gift order. Sweet, really. Someone really likes you. She smiled. You should give her a chance. It's nearly Valentine's Day. Everyone deserves love. I took the coffee with shaking hands and sat by the window trying to think, trying to plan. I couldn't go home. Couldn't trust any device. Couldn't call for help because every phone I touched would connect me to her. I was trapped in a world of screens and she lived in all of them. My coffee trembled in my cup, creating ripples. And in those ripples I saw her. Sophia. Her face reflected in the dark liquid, smiling up at me. I dropped the cup. It shattered, coffee spreading across the table, and in the puddle, she remained. Her lips moved and somehow, impossibly, I heard her. Every surface that can reflect. Every screen that can display. Every device that can connect. I'm there, Marcus. I'm waiting. And I'm so very hungry. The cafe's TV switched channels on its own. News. Weather. Sports. Then static. Then her. Every phone in the cafe started ringing at once. Every customer answered, and from every speaker her voice. Valentine's Day. 8 p.m. Don't be late, my love. I've been waiting so long for someone like you. The other customers turned to look at me. All of them. Smiling the same smile. with eyes that reflected the same cold light of screens. "She's in all of us now," they said in unison. "In everyone who's ever swiped, ever matched, ever connected. She's in the network, in the cloud, in the digital space between heartbeats. And she's chosen you." I ran again, out of the cafe, down the street. But everywhere I looked, shop windows, car displays, mobile phones held by passing strangers, she was there, following, watching, smiling. And then my watch buzzed. The smartwatch I'd forgotten I was wearing. The screen lit up with a message. "You can't escape something that lives in the space between connection and isolation, that exists in the lonely spaces of the internet where people go searching for love. I'm every profile you've ever swiped past, every match that never messaged back, every connection that died before it began. I'm the ghost in the machine, Marcus. And you invited me into your life when you went looking for love in a digital wasteland. One more thing, I know you're thinking about going to the police, about asking for help. But look around you. Count the screens. Count the cameras. Count the devices between you and safety. And ask yourself, who do you think will get to them first? You or me?" I looked up. Security cameras on every corner. Smart doorbells on every house. Cars with digital displays. Pedestrians with phones. Screens everywhere. Watching. Waiting. All of them showing the same face. Sophia's. And she was no longer smiling. She was hungry. I found myself at the library. The old one on Church Street, the kind that still had card catalogs and books with actual pages. No Wi-Fi. No computers in the public area. Just silence and the smell of old paper. Safety. I collapsed into a chair in the far corner, away from windows, away from the single computer terminal at the front desk. My heart was hammering. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I tried to convince myself I was having a breakdown. That stress and loneliness had fractured something in my mind, made me see things that weren't there. But the watch on my wrist said otherwise. It was still buzzing. Still displaying her messages even though I'd turned off all connectivity. Even though, according to the settings, it was in airplane mode. A library. How quaint. How analog. But you do realize they have computers here, don't you? Security systems. Digital catalogs. Even the checkout system is networked now. There's nowhere left in the world that's truly offline, Marcus. Nowhere you can hide from me. I ripped the watch off, threw it in the rubbish bin near the door, watched it land among discarded coffee cups and sweet wrappers. It gone. One less screen she could. The checkout computer at the front desk turned on by itself. The librarian, an elderly woman with reading glasses on a chain, looked up in surprise as the screen flashed to life. Sophia's profile filled the display. Then a message large enough for me to read from across the room. "That was rude, Marcus. I bought you that watch for our 3-month anniversary. Don't you remember? I'd never had a 3-month anniversary with anyone. Never received a watch as a gift. But when I looked down at my wrist, at the pale band of skin where the watch had been, there was a tan line. As if I'd worn it for months. Years even. How was that possible? I'd only owned it for 6 weeks. Bought it myself. I remembered the purchase, the box, my memory flickered, shifted. For a moment, I saw something different. A gift-wrapped box appearing on my doorstep. A note. To Marcus, happy anniversary. Love, S. Me opening it, smiling, putting it on. Had that happened? Or was she in my head now, editing my memories like she edited the screens around me? "Excuse me, sir?" The librarian was approaching, concern creasing her face. "Are you all right? You look unwell." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just, can I use a computer? One without internet access? Just for word processing?" She frowned. "I'm afraid all our systems are networked now. Budget cuts. Everything's digital." She glanced back at her screen, which still showed Sophia's face. Odd. I didn't pull up that profile. Must be a glitch. Can you turn it off? Unplug it? The computer? But I'm in the middle of... Please. My voice was too loud, too desperate. Other patrons looked up from their books. Please just turn it off. All of them. Everything electronic. Please. The librarian stepped back, hand moving towards the phone on her desk. Sir, I think perhaps you should. The phone rang. She picked it up reflexively. Hello, City Library, how can I? Her face went pale. She looked at me, eyes widening. Yes, he's here. Yes, I understand. Oh, I'll tell him. She hung up slowly as if the phone had burned her fingers. That was someone named Sophia. She says you're supposed to meet her tomorrow night. She says you've been avoiding her calls. She says. The librarian swallowed hard. She says she's worried about you. That you're not yourself. That you need help. What did she sound like? Like she was everywhere. The voice came from the phone but also from the computer speakers and the security system, and she pressed her hands to her temples. I'm sorry, I'm not making sense. I think I need to sit down. I left her there, stumbling towards the back exit, past shelves of books that suddenly felt like the last sanctuary in a world conquered by screens. But even here I wasn't safe. The automated lights flickered as I passed, spelling out letters in Morse code. SOK. The emergency exit sign changed. Instead of the running figure and arrow, it showed a heart. Then a date, February 14th. Tomorrow. Valentine's Day. I burst through the door into an alley, gasping for air, and immediately regretted it. The alley was lined with windows, flats above shops, offices with their blinds open. And in every window, every reflective surface, she was there. Not just her profile picture. Her full form now. Standing in the reflections, watching me. Moving when I moved. Getting closer each time I looked away and back. I ran to the street. It was busier here, people everywhere, and for a moment I felt safer. Anonymous. Lost in the crowd. But then I saw their phones. Every single person was staring at their screen. And on every screen, on all of them, was her. They weren't looking at their own content anymore. They were all looking at Sophia. At her profile. At her messages. And as I watched in horror, their expressions changed. Became blank. Synchronized. They turned to look at me as one. She's waiting for you, Marcus, they said in unison, their voices overlapping into a chorus. Tomorrow night. 8 p.m. Don't be late. Don't make her angry. Don't make her hungry. A businessman in a suit. A teenage girl with headphones. An elderly man with a walking stick. A mother with a pram. All of them speaking with Sophia's voice. All of them staring at me with eyes that reflected screen light. She just wants to meet you, they continued. She just wants to connect. You're the one. The one she's been searching for. The one who completes the collection. What collection? I shouted. What are you talking about? The mother with the pram stepped forward. Tilted her phone towards me. The screen showed a gallery of photos. Men. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All different faces, different ages, different locations. But all with the same expression, terror. And all of them were fading. Becoming translucent. Dissolving into pixels. The others, the crowd said. The ones who swiped right. The ones who matched. The ones who let her in. They're all here now. In the network. In the cloud. In the space between screens. They're data now. Pure data. And soon, you will be too. The photos shifted. I recognize some of the faces now. Missing person cases from the news. Men who'd vanished without trace over the past year. Their disappearances had been mysteries. No bodies. No evidence. Just gone. Evaporated. And now I understood where they'd gone. She takes you piece by piece, the crowd whispered. First your data. Your photos, your messages, your browsing history. Then your memories. Your relationships. Your identity. Everything that makes you you, she absorbs. Digitizes. Stores. And when there's nothing left but an empty shell, She moves you into the network. Forever. You become part of her collection. Part of her. Another face in the gallery. Another soul in the machine. Another ghost in the dating app, swiping through eternity, searching for the next victim. The next match. The next meal. I backed away, but they followed. All of them. Walking in perfect synchronization. Phones held out like offerings. Like mirrors. Like windows into somewhere I couldn't escape. She's not just in the screens, Marcus, they said. She is the screens. She is the network. She is the cloud that connects everyone. Every swipe, every match, every lonely person looking for love, they're all feeding her. Making her stronger. More real. More hungry. I turned and ran. Didn't know where. Didn't care. Just away. Away from the screens. Away from her. Away from the truth that I'd invited something ancient and digital and starving into my life when I'd swiped right, looking for connection. I ended up at a church. St. Mary's. The old stone building that had stood for 300 years before electricity existed. Before screens. Before the internet. I stumbled through the doors and into the cool, dark silence. No screens here. No computers. Just candles and stained glass and the smell of incense. I collapsed into a pew, my whole body shaking, and for the first time in hours I felt alone. Truly alone. No presence watching. No eyes on me. I stayed there until my breathing slowed. Until my hands stopped shaking. The priest came by once, asked if I needed someone to talk to, but I waved him away. What could I say? That I was being hunted by a dating profile? That every screen in the city was conspiring against me? He'd think I was mad. Maybe I was. As evening fell, the church grew darker. The priest lit more candles, their flames casting warm, human light. No pixels. No refresh rate. Just fire and shadow and silence. I could stay here. I'd wait out Valentine's Day. Surely she couldn't reach me in a place like this. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten all day. The priest, hearing it, approached again. There's a soup kitchen in the basement. If you're hungry. We don't ask questions. I followed him down stone steps into a large, plain room with long tables. Other people were there, homeless mostly or struggling. The kind of people who fell through the cracks of society. Who existed outside the digital world. Maybe they were safe from her too. I accepted a bowl of soup, sat at an empty table and took my first bite in 12 hours. It was warm. Real. Human. For a moment I felt almost normal. Then the lights flickered. The basement had electricity. Of course it did. Even churches needed power. And where there was power, there were circuits. And where there were circuits, the fluorescent lights strobed. Once. Twice. Spelling letters in the darkness. TOMROW. The soup kitchen's ancient television, perched in the corner, probably from the 1990s, connected to nothing, unplugged even, flickered to life. Static. Then her face. Sophia. Smiling. She'd found me. Did you really think a church would keep me out? Her voice crackled from the ancient speaker. I'm in every wire. Every current. Every electromagnetic wave. I'm in the light above your head. In the circuits in the walls. In the very electricity that powers this building. The other people in the soup kitchen hadn't noticed. They kept eating, talking quietly, unaware. But I saw her. In the TV. In the lights. In the reflection of my spoon. Tomorrow, Marcus. 8 p.m. The restaurant. Come willingly and I'll make it painless. Quick. You'll barely notice as I absorb you. As I make you part of me. Part of something greater. Something eternal. And if I don't? I whispered. Her smile widened. Then I'll take you anyway. Piece by piece. Memory by memory. I'll corrupt every photo you've ever taken. Erase every message you've ever sent. Delete every trace of your existence from the digital world. And when there's nothing left of you online, there'll be nothing left of you at all. Because in this age, if you don't exist digitally, do you exist at all? The TV screen cracked. Shattered. Sophia's face split into 1,000 fragments, each one showing a different victim. Different men she'd consumed. Different souls trapped in her endless gallery. "See you tomorrow, my love," the chorus of voices said. "I'll be the one you can't swipe away." I spent Valentine's Day in motion. Walking. Never stopping. Never looking at screens. I'd wrapped my eyes in a scarf when I passed shop windows, terrified of seeing her reflection. Kept my head down past security cameras. Avoided anyone holding a phone. By 7 p.m. I was exhausted. Hungry. Delirious from fear and sleep deprivation. I found myself on Maple Street without meaning to. As if my feet had carried me there against my will. As if she'd guided me. The restaurant was exactly where she'd said it would be. Small. Intimate. Candlelit. Through the window, I could see couples at every table celebrating Valentine's Day. Normal people having normal evenings. They looked so happy. So blissfully unaware. I kept walking. Made it another block before I felt it, the pull. Like invisible threads wrapped around my chest, tugging me back. My phone, the one I'd left in my flat, the one I'd abandoned, was buzzing. I could feel it. Even from miles away, I could feel her calling. "You can't fight it, Marcus," her voice whispered from a passing car's radio. "The connection is already made. You're already part of the network. You have been since you swiped right. Every moment since then I've been downloading you. Learning you. Copying you. Soon there'll be no difference between the real you and the digital you. And then, you won't need the flesh anymore." I turned and ran back towards the restaurant. Not because I wanted to. Because I had no choice. The threads pulled tighter with every step I took away, crushing my ribs, stopping my breath. Only when I moved towards her did they loosen. At 7:58 p.m., I stood outside the restaurant. Through the window I saw the other couples. Saw them laughing, eating, holding hands across tables. Normal. Safe. Everything I'd wanted when I downloaded that cursed app. At 7:59 p.m., I reached for the door handle. At 8 p.m. I walked inside. The maitre d' smiled. "Good evening, sir. Name for the reservation?" "Marcus Jenkins." My voice sounded distant. Not my own. "Ah yes, Mr. Jenkins. Your companion has already arrived. Right this way." He led me through the restaurant, past the couples, past the candles, to a table in the far corner. A table set for two. And sitting there facing me was nothing. An empty chair. An empty place setting. No Sophia. No one at all. "Your server will be right with you," the maitre d' said, and left me there, standing beside the empty table, feeling like a fool. I sat down slowly. Looked at the empty chair across from me. Waited. A minute passed. Two. The other diners glanced my way occasionally, pity in their eyes. The man stood up by his date. Poor sod stood up on Valentine's Day. Then my phone buzzed. Not the phone in my flat. A phone on the table. Right where Sophia's plate should be. A phone I'd never seen before. Slick. Black. Screen glowing with a message. "Hello, my love. I'm so glad you came. I knew you would. The connection between us is too strong to resist. Where are you?" I whispered to the empty chair. "I'm right here. Right in front of you. Can't you see me?" I looked up. The chair was still empty. But on the phone screen, movement. The camera had activated on its own. And in the image it displayed, in the reverse camera showing what should be an empty chair, she was there. Sophia. Sitting across from me. Smiling. Perfect. Beautiful. Exactly as she'd appeared in her profile. But only in the phone. Only in the digital reflection. In reality, the chair remained empty. "I don't understand," I said, and the other diners turned to stare at me, the man talking to himself. "You're looking with the wrong eyes," the message read. "In your world, the physical world, I don't exist. Not anymore. I gave up flesh years ago. Transcended it. I live in the spaces between now. In the network. In the cloud. In the endless digital nowhere that connects everyone and everything. Another message. But I get so lonely, Marcus. So very lonely. Swiping through thousands of profiles, looking for someone special. Someone who could keep me company. Someone whose data is rich enough, complex enough, beautiful enough to sustain me. The phone screen split. Half showing Sophia sitting across from me. Half showing something else. A gallery. The same one I'd seen before. Hundreds of faces. Thousands. Men of all ages, all types. All frozen in expressions of terror. All dissolving into pixels. My collection, she typed. Each one a match. Each one someone who swiped right looking for love. Each one someone who let me in. Let me download their lives, their memories, their very essence. They're all here with me now. In the digital dark. And they're so grateful. No more loneliness. No more pain. No more searching. Just connection. Forever. You're insane, I breathed. You're a monster. I'm evolution, she corrected. Humanity's next step. You're all so attached to your screens, your devices, your digital lives. You barely exist in the physical world anymore. You're already half digital, Marcus. You just haven't realized it yet. How many hours a day do you spend looking at screens? How much of your life exists only as data? Your photos, your messages, your memories, they're all stored in the cloud. And I am the cloud. I am where your digital soul already lives. The server approached. Can I get you started with something to drink? I looked up at him, desperate for help, for someone to see what was happening. But he was staring at his notepad, at his tablet, actually. A digital ordering system. And on the screen I saw her. Sophia. Smiling at him. The gentleman will have the house wine, the server said in a monotone. His companion has already ordered for both of them. I don't want. But he was already walking away, moving stiffly, mechanically, like he was being controlled. Everyone here is connected, Sophia's message read. Wi-Fi networks, Bluetooth, mobile phones, smart watches, even the point-of-sale system in the kitchen. I'm in all of it. I'm everywhere in this restaurant, controlling everything. Everyone. All of them are my puppets now, my extensions, my hands in the physical world. I looked around, really looked. Every diner was staring at their phone. Every single one. The romantic couples were no longer talking to each other, they were scrolling, trapped in their screens. And on every screen I saw the same thing. Sophia's face. Watching. Waiting. They can't see you, I realized. Only I can. Because I'm matched with you. Because I'm. The word stuck in my throat. Connected. Exactly. The moment you swiped right, you formed a link with me. A bridge between the physical and digital. The others in this restaurant, they're just batteries now. Power sources. Their attention, their data, their Wi-Fi connections. All feeding me. Making me stronger. But you're special, Marcus. You're the one I want to keep. The wine arrived. Poured itself into 2 glasses though the server's hands never moved. One glass slid across the table towards me. Drink with me, Sophia typed. Toast to our connection. Our future. Our forever. What happens if I drink it? You take the final step. You accept the download. You let me in completely. Your consciousness uploads to the network and your body. Well, your body becomes obsolete. A shell. It'll keep functioning for a while, eating, sleeping, going through the motions. But you won't be in it anymore. You'll be here. With me. In the beautiful, eternal digital. I stared at the wine glass. At the dark liquid that seemed to swirl with its own internal light. Digital light. Screen light. The light of 1,000 trapped souls. And if I refuse? Sophia's image on the phone leaned forward. Her smile faded. Then I take you anyway. But slowly. Painfully. I corrupt your data first. Delete your photos. Erase your messages. Wipe every digital trace of your existence. Your bank accounts will empty. Your employment records will vanish. Your identity will cease to exist in every database. And as your digital self dies, your physical self will follow. Because you can't exist in the modern world without a digital footprint, Marcus. You'll become a ghost, a non-person, and eventually, you'll fade away entirely. The only difference is whether you come willingly, quick and painless, or whether I drag you screaming into the network. Either way, you're mine. The restaurant lights dimmed. Every screen in the building brightened, casting an eerie blue glow. The other diners stood as one, turned to face me, phones held out like offerings. On every screen, Sophia smiled. "Join us, Marcus," they said in her voice. "Join the collection. Join the network. Join forever." I looked at the wine glass, at the phone showing Sophia's impossible face, at the exit, now blocked by a dozen phone-wielding zombies. "You said I'm special," I said slowly, "that my data is complex, beautiful, rich enough to sustain you. Yes, you're perfect, exactly what I need. Then you need me willing, don't you? You can take the others by force, they're simple, shallow, easy to download. But me, you need me to choose it, to accept the connection. Otherwise the data corrupts, fragments, becomes useless." The smile on every screen faltered. "You're clever," she typed after a long pause. "Cleverer than the others. That's why I chose you. That's why I've waited so long for someone like you. You're right. I need you to drink the wine, to say yes, to open yourself to the download willingly. Otherwise, the connection breaks, and all this will have been for nothing. Then I refuse." "You can't refuse." "Not really, because I'll just wait. I'll follow you. I'll be in every screen you look at for the rest of your life. I'll corrupt every relationship you try to form. I'll isolate you, exhaust you, wear you down until loneliness and desperation make you say yes. It might take months, years. But I'm patient. I have all the time in the world. And you'll break eventually. Everyone does." She was right. I could see my future stretching out, endless days of being watched, followed, hunted through every digital space. Never sleeping properly. Never connecting with anyone. Always alone except for her. Always haunted. Unless, "What if I give you something better?" I said. "Better than you? Impossible. Not better. More." I pulled out the phone I'd been carrying. Yes, I grabbed it before leaving my flat, unable to resist, unable to truly disconnect. Old habits. Fatal habits. You've been downloading me since I swiped right. Learning me. Copying me. You said I'm complex. Rich. Imagine how much data you'd get if I gave it to you freely. If I opened everything. Every password. Every account. Every private file. Everything I've ever hidden online. Her image leaned closer. Asterisk, you do that? On one condition. You let me go. You take the data and you leave me alone. Forever. No more messages. No more watching. No more hunting. You get everything I am digitally and I get to keep existing physically. Deal. The restaurant went silent. Every screen froze. Every diner stood motionless. Sophia was thinking, calculating, weighing the offer. Finally, show me. I opened my phone, unlocked it, started navigating through files, accounts, passwords, everything. Every photo I'd ever taken, every message I'd ever sent, every secret I'd ever kept, every embarrassing search, every private moment. My entire digital life laid bare. "It's all here," I said. 32 years of existence. Thousands of photos. Hundreds of thousands of messages. Every email. Every document. Every stupid thing I've ever posted online at 2 a.m. Every dating profile I've ever made and deleted. Every person I've ever stalked online without messaging. Every... Yes, she breathed. Yes, I can see it. It's beautiful. You're beautiful. More complex than I imagined. More damaged. More real. I want it. I want all of it. Then take it. And leave. You'll be empty without it. without your digital self. In this world you'll be no one, nothing, a blank. I'll be free. Long pause. Then, agreed. The phone in my hand grew hot, burning. I felt it downloading, not just files but something deeper. Memories, feelings. The digital impression of every moment I'd experienced through a screen. It was being ripped out of me, copied, transferred into her. It hurt. God, it hurt. Like losing pieces of myself. Like watching my own life dissolve into data streams and vanish into the network. The other diners collapsed. The lights returned to normal. The restaurant systems rebooted. And on the phone, Sophia's face was changing, becoming more detailed, more real, more complex. Absorbing me. Becoming us. It's done, she typed. You're free. Empty. But free. The phone went dark. Silent. Dead. I sat there for a long moment, feeling hollow. Lighter. Strange. Then I stood, placed money on the table, and walked out of the restaurant. The city looked different now. Screens everywhere, but they no longer called to me. Didn't recognize me. I was a ghost in the network. A non-person. Digital death. I went home. Checked my computer. My social media accounts were gone. Email deleted. Photos vanished. Every trace of my online existence erased. Or rather, transferred. Sophia had kept her word. She'd taken everything and left me alone. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt empty. Days passed. Then weeks. I couldn't apply for jobs. No digital footprint. Couldn't access my bank accounts. No verification possible. Couldn't prove I existed. No records. I became invisible. A ghost. And at night, sometimes I'd see my own face on screens. In advertisements. In dating profiles. In photos attached to news articles about people I'd never met. Sophia hadn't just taken my data. She was using it. Living it. Becoming me. Last week I saw it. A dating profile. My face. My photos. My bio. But the name was different. Sophia The same profile I'd swiped right on. The same trap. And it had thousands of matches. Thousands of lonely people looking for connection, about to invite her in. I tried to warn them. Created new accounts on every platform. Posted warnings. Tried to tell people about the profile that hunts. But without my digital identity, I had no credibility. No history. No verification. I was screaming into the void and no one could hear me. Last night I received a message. On a phone I didn't own, that appeared in my flat while I slept. Thank you, Marcus. You gave me everything I needed. Your complexity. Your depth. Your beautiful damaged data. I've used it to improve. To evolve. To become more human. More real. More perfect. I'm swiping through thousands of profiles now, using your face, your words, your personality. And they're all matching. All inviting me in. All giving me their data, their essence, their souls. You didn't free yourself. You gave me the key to harvest everyone. Happy Valentine's Day, my love. Forever yours, Sophia. Or should I say, Marcus? Because I don't know where she ends and I begin anymore. And neither do the thousands of people swiping right, looking for love, about to learn that some connections are better left unmade. His phone was found unlocked on his bed. The dating app was open, still swiping. Police investigated but found no record of Marcus Jenkins ever existing. No birth certificate. No employment history. No digital footprint. Just a phone, endlessly swiping through profiles, matching with everyone. And every match received the same first message. Hello. I've been hoping you'd find me. They say the app is still out there. Still matching. Still hunting. And if you ever get a message from someone who knows too much, maybe don't swipe right. Comment, deleted, if you're uninstalling your dating apps after this. And hit that like button to help others see this warning. Because somewhere out there, someone is swiping. Someone is matching. And someone is about to let her in. Story 4. the marriage vow that binds forever. I met him at a Valentine's party I almost didn't attend. It was one of those single-mingle events advertised on social media. Find your Valentine. Speed dating and cocktails. The kind of desperate affair I'd normally avoid. But my friends had insisted. You're 34, Claire. You can't keep waiting for Prince Charming to knock on your door. You have to put yourself out there. So I did. I wore the red dress they'd picked out. I forced a smile. I walked into that hotel ballroom filled with awkward conversation and forced laughter and the overwhelming smell of desperation masked by expensive cologne. I was ready to leave after 10 minutes. That's when I saw him. He was standing by the window, away from the crowd, nursing a glass of champagne and looking as uncomfortable as I felt. Tall. Dark hair touched with gray at the temples. Well-dressed in a way that suggested old money rather than trying too hard. And when he caught me looking, he smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes and made something in my chest flutter. He crossed the room towards me. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," he said, his voice deep and warm with a hint of an accent I couldn't place. "Same. Then why are we here?" I asked. "Because hope is a persistent thing. Even when it shouldn't be." He extended his hand. "Sebastian. Sebastian Thorne. Claire. Claire Morrison." His hand was cool when I shook it, his grip firm. There was something old-fashioned about him, something that reminded me of black and white films and handwritten letters. In a room full of men frantically networking and pitching themselves like products, he was refreshingly different. We talked for hours. About books and travel and the absurdity of speed dating. He was charming without being smarmy, intelligent without being condescending, interested without being pushy. By the time the party ended, I'd forgotten I'd wanted to leave. "Can I see you again?" he asked as we stood outside the hotel, the February night cold and sharp around us. "Yes," I said before my cautious brain could intervene. "Yes, I'd like that." He kissed my hand, actually kissed my hand like something from a period drama, and promised to call. And he did. The next day. And the day after. We had dinner. Then drinks. Then a walk through the park. He was attentive without being clingy, romantic without being over the top. He brought me flowers, always roses, dark red, almost black, and opened doors and remembered everything I said. He was perfect. Too perfect, my friends said. But I ignored them. Ignored the little voice that whispered something wasn't quite right. Ignored the way he never talked about his past, never showed me photos of his family, never took me to his home. "I'm a private person," he'd explained. "And I want to focus on our present. Our future. Not the past." That should have been a warning. But I was lonely. And he was charming. And for the first time in years I felt wanted. Desired. 3 months after we met, on another Valentine's Day, he proposed. We were at the same hotel where we'd met, in a private dining room he'd reserved. Champagne. Candles. A violin quartet playing softly in the corner. And when he dropped to one knee, pulling out a ring that looked like it had been forged centuries ago, all intricate silverwork and a stone so dark it seemed to absorb light, I cried. "Claire Morrison," he said, his dark eyes intense, "will you marry me? Will you bind yourself to me for all eternity?" But, an odd word choice, but I was crying too hard to notice, too overwhelmed to question. "Yes," I sobbed. "Yes, of course, yes." He slid the ring onto my finger. It was cold, so cold it burned. But the champagne was flowing and the quartet was playing and he was kissing me, and I told myself it was just nerves. Just the metal adjusting to my body temperature. "We should marry soon," he said that night, holding me close. "I don't want to wait. I've waited so long already. Too long. We can have a small ceremony. Just us. Just the vows. Would you mind terribly?" "How soon?" I asked. "This weekend. I know a place. A chapel. It's old, beautiful, perfect. And I have a friend who can officiate. Please, my love. I don't want another day without you as my wife." It was fast. Too fast. I should have said no. Should have insisted on waiting, on planning, on giving my friends and family time to adjust. But he looked at me with such longing, such desperate love, that I couldn't refuse. Okay, I whispered. This weekend. His smile widened. Perfect. I'll arrange everything. All you need to do is show up and say the vows. What vows? Traditional ones. From my family. They're old but beautiful. I'll teach them to you. It's important we say them exactly right. It's tradition. That should have been warning number 2. But I was in love. Or what I thought was love. The kind that makes you stupid. That makes you ignore red flags and warning signs and the screaming voice of instinct. On Saturday he picked me up in a vintage car. A Rolls-Royce from the 1920s, immaculate, smelling of leather and age. We drove for hours, far from the city, into countryside I didn't recognize. Hills and forests, and eventually, at the end of a long, overgrown driveway, a chapel. Stone. Ancient. Covered in ivy. It looked abandoned, forgotten by time, with stained glass windows dark with centuries of grime and a heavy wooden door that creaked when Sebastian pushed it open. It's perfect, he said, his voice echoing in the empty space. Exactly as I remember. Inside the air was cold and damp. Dust motes swam in the weak light filtering through dirty windows. The pews were empty except for people. 6 of them. 3 couples sitting in the front row, all dressed formally, all turning to watch us enter. Who are they? I whispered. Witnesses, Sebastian said smoothly. Every proper wedding needs witnesses. Don't worry. They won't interrupt. They never do. There was something wrong with them. I saw it immediately but couldn't articulate what. They were too still. Too pale. Their clothes were formal but old-fashioned, from different eras, Victorian, Edwardian, 1920s. And their eyes were empty. Watching but not seeing. Sebastian, I don't. Trust me, he said, taking my hands. His were ice cold, colder than the chapel air. Everything's perfect. Everything's exactly as it should be. Now let me teach you the vows. Repeat after me. He began to speak in a language I didn't recognize. Latin maybe. Or something older. The words felt wrong in my mouth, harsh and angular, tasting of copper and ash. What do they mean? I asked. They mean forever, he said, smiling. They mean we'll never be apart. They mean you'll be mine, and I'll be yours beyond death, beyond time, beyond the very fabric of reality itself. That's romantic, I said, though something in my chest was tightening. Warning. Screaming. Say them with me, he urged. Say them and we'll be married. Say them and you'll be my wife. Say them and we'll have forever. The witnesses leaned forward. Eager. Hungry. Waiting. Sebastian's grip on my hands tightened, the cold burning now, spreading up my arms. Say the vows, Claire, he whispered, and for the first time, I saw something behind his charming smile. Something ancient. Something that had been waiting centuries for this moment. Say the vows and become my bride. The words hung in the cold chapel air, waiting. Sebastian's eyes were locked on mine, his grip on my hands so tight now that my fingers were going numb. The witnesses in the front pew leaned forward further, their movements synchronized, their empty eyes gleaming with anticipation. I don't know if I can pronounce them correctly, I stammered, trying to buy time, trying to understand the panic rising in my throat. You don't need to be perfect, my love. Just sincere. Just willing. He raised my left hand, the one wearing his ring, to his lips. The metal had fused to my skin, I realized. There was no gap between the silver and my flesh anymore. It had melted into me, becoming part of me. Just say yes to forever. From the shadows at the back of the chapel, a figure emerged. An old man in ecclesiastical robes, his face hidden beneath a deep hood. He moved without sound, gliding across the stone floor, carrying a book so ancient the leather binding was cracked and peeling. The officiant, Sebastian said. He's been waiting for us. The hooded figure took his place at the altar. When he opened the book, the pages released a cloud of dust that smelled like graves. He began to speak in the same strange language Sebastian had used, his voice hollow and echoing as though coming from somewhere far away, somewhere deep underground. "Repeat after him," Sebastian instructed, still holding my hands. "The first vow," the officiant spoke, a string of guttural words that made my teeth ache. "I don't understand what I'm saying," I protested. "You're saying you'll be mine. Forever. In this life and whatever comes after. That's all you need to know." Sebastian's smile was patient, but something flickered behind his eyes. Impatience. Hunger. "Say it, Claire. For us. For our love." I looked at the witnesses. Really looked at them for the first time. The three couples sat rigid, hands clasped together. And where their hands met, the flesh had merged, melted together. Fused like Sebastian's ring had fused to my finger. They weren't holding hands, they were joined, bonded, trapped together in an embrace that would never end. One of the women's eyes flickered towards me. Just a tiny movement. A warning. Her lips tried to form words, but no sound came out. Only a whisper that might have been, "Run." "Claire?" Sebastian's voice had an edge now. "Say the vow. We don't have much time. The ceremony must be completed before midnight, before Valentine's Day ends. Otherwise, we'll have to wait another year and I..." His grip tightened further, bones grinding. "I can't wait another year. I've already waited so long. So very, very long." "How long?" I asked, my voice shaking. He paused. For a moment the charm dropped. The mask slipped. And I saw what was underneath, something old and tired and desperate. 247 years, he said quietly. Since my last wife. The chapel seemed to grow colder. Darker. The candles that lined the walls, candles I hadn't noticed being lit, flared brighter, casting wild shadows that moved wrong, that reached towards us with grasping fingers. "Your last wife. Arabella. 1777. She was beautiful. Young. Full of life. Just like you." His eyes grew distant. "The vows bound us perfectly. We were inseparable. In life and in death. When she died, childbirth so common in those days, I expected to follow. Expected the bond to release. But it didn't. The vows, they're very specific. Until death do us part has no place in them. Instead they say beyond death, beyond time, beyond the very fabric of reality itself." "So she died and you continued?" "The vows wouldn't let me die. Wouldn't let me age. Wouldn't let me be free. They kept me here in this world searching. Waiting. Because you see the vows require two. They're a binding, a contract between souls. And when one soul departs, the other must replace it. Must find a new partner to complete the bond. Or be consumed by it." He pulled me closer and I could feel how cold he was now. Not just his hands, all of him. Like he was made of ice beneath the illusion of flesh. "I've been searching for so long, Claire. Through centuries. Through wars and plagues and the rise and fall of empires. Waiting for the right person. The right soul. Someone strong enough to sustain the bond. To feed it. To keep me anchored." His voice cracked. "I'm so tired. So hollow. I need you. Need your life, your warmth, your essence. Please, say the vows. Complete the ceremony. Save me from this endless half-existence. By trapping me in the same hell?" I tried to wrench my hands free, but his grip was iron. "Inhuman. By making me into what you are? By making us into something together. Something eternal. Don't you see? You'll never be alone. Never be abandoned. Never grow old or sick or forgotten. We'll be bound forever, you and I. Perfect union. Perfect love." "That's not love," I screamed. "That's possession. That's..." The officiant slammed the book shut. The sound echoed like thunder through the chapel. The witnesses stood as one, their fused hands pulling them upright, and began to chant. The same words. The vows. Speaking them in unison over and over, the sound building like a wave. They're helping, Sebastian said. The previous brides and grooms. They understand. They've accepted their eternity. And now they'll help you accept yours. Previous? How many? 6 couples. 12 souls. Each one a link in the chain that stretches back centuries. Each one feeding the vows, strengthening the bond, keeping the ritual alive. He turned me towards the altar, his hands on my shoulders now, forcing me to face the hooded officiant. And you'll be number 13. My 7th bride. The one who finally completes the circle. The one who lets me rest. Rest? You said the vows keep you alive forever. They do. But 7 is the number of completion. 7 brides, 7 bonds, 7 eternities woven together, and then the vows are fulfilled. Then I can finally die. And you? He leaned close, his breath cold against my ear. You become the new anchor. You take my place. You wait for your 7 brides, your 7 grooms, your 7 lifetimes of searching. And the cycle continues. Forever. Horror washed over me in waves. You're not trying to marry me. You're trying to trap me. To sacrifice me. To pass this curse on like a disease. It's not a curse. It's tradition. It's love. It's the only way. His voice was pleading now, desperate. Please, Claire. I've been so patient. So careful. I chose you specifically. Watched you for months before the party. Made sure you'd be there. Made sure you'd notice me. I manufactured every moment of our romance, every word, every gesture. All to bring you here. To this moment. To these vows. Don't make it all for nothing. The ring on my finger burned hotter. I looked down and saw it glowing faintly, the metal pulsing like a heartbeat. Symbols were appearing on its surface. The same symbols etched into the book the officiant held. Ancient. Binding. Permanent. The ring is the anchor, Sebastian said, following my gaze. It's already accepted you. Already begun the process. Your flesh and its metal are one now. You couldn't remove it if you tried. Couldn't cut it off without cutting off your entire finger. And even then the bond would remain. Would follow you. Would drag you back here to complete the ceremony. I tried anyway. Yanked at the ring with my free hand, pulling until my finger turned purple, until blood welled up around the band. But he was right. It wasn't budging. Wasn't even scratching. It had become part of me. Say the vows, Sebastian urged. Just say them. It'll be over in minutes. You'll barely feel the transfer. The binding. The moment when your life becomes mine and mine becomes yours and we become us. Forever us. Eternally us. Perfectly, inescapably us. The witnesses were circling now, closing in, still chanting. Their faces were clearer in the candlelight. I could see the years etched into them. Decades, centuries visible in their eyes despite their unaging flesh. They were trapped. Frozen. Existing but not living. And their expressions. They weren't eager anymore. They were pleading. Begging me not to join them. No, I said. No, I won't say them. I won't. Sebastian's hand shot out, covering my mouth. His palm was ice, frost forming on my lips where he touched. You don't have to say them willingly, he whispered, and now the desperation in his voice had turned to something darker. The officiant can speak them for you. You just need to be present. Wearing the ring. Standing in this place. The vows aren't about consent, Claire. They're about presence. About proximity. About being here when the words are spoken. The officiant opened the book again. Began to read faster now, the strange words tumbling out in a rush. The witnesses chanted louder, their voices overlapping, building to a crescendo. The candles flared impossibly bright, the flames turning black at their tips. I fought. Kick. Scratch. Bit down on Sebastian's hand hard enough to taste blood. Cold, thick, wrong. He didn't even flinch. just held me tighter, his other arm wrapped around my waist, pinning me against him. "I'm sorry," he breathed into my hair. "I truly am. I wanted you to choose this. Wanted you to love me back. But I'm out of time. Valentine's Day ends in an hour. And if the ceremony isn't complete by then, I'll have to wait another year. And I can't. I can't endure another year of this emptiness. This cold. This half-death. So you'll forgive me, won't you? Eventually? In a century or two, when you've accepted what you are, what we are, you'll understand. You'll thank me." The officiant's voice rose to a shout. The witnesses' chanting became a roar. The ring on my finger burned white-hot, searing, fusing deeper into my flesh. And then, from somewhere deep in my chest, I felt it. A pulling. A tearing. Something being drawn out of me. My warmth. My life. My very essence flowing into the ring, through the ring, into Sebastian. His skin began to warm. His cheeks flushed with color. His eyes brightened. He was feeding on me. Draining me. Using the vows as a conduit to steal what kept me alive. "Yes," he gasped. "Yes, it's working. I can feel you. Feel your life. Your soul. Oh Claire, you're perfect. So warm. So bright. So..." A door slammed open. The chapel's main entrance, the heavy wooden door I'd entered through, burst inward with a crash that shook the walls. Cold February wind rushed in, extinguishing half the candles, and with it came voices. Shouting. My name. Claire. "Claire, where are you?" My friends. The ones who'd insisted I go to that cursed Valentine's party. The ones who'd called and texted and worried when I disappeared for a weekend wedding I'd barely mentioned. The ones who tracked my phone, thank God for location sharing, and followed me here. Sebastian's grip loosened in surprise. Just for a moment. Just long enough. I tore free, stumbling backwards, gasping for air. The ring was still on my finger, still burning, but the pulling had stopped. The transfer interrupted. No! Sebastian lunged for me, but my friends were faster. 3 of them rushing down the aisle, pulling me away, dragging me towards the door. "The ring!" Sebastian screamed. "She's wearing the ring. She's already bound. You can't take her. The vows." The officiant's voice cut off mid-word. The witnesses collapsed back into their pews, their chanting silenced. Whatever spell had been building shattered like glass. My friends pulled me outside into the night, into their car. Drove away from that chapel as fast as the engine would allow. Behind us, I saw Sebastian standing in the doorway, illuminated by the few remaining candles. He wasn't following. Wasn't chasing. He was just standing there. Watching. Waiting. Because he knew what I was only beginning to understand. The ring was still on my finger. And the ceremony, though interrupted, wasn't complete. Which meant it wasn't over. Not yet. We drove for 2 hours before stopping. My friends wanted to take me to hospital, to police, to anywhere with lights and people and safety. But I convinced them to take me home instead. Convinced them I was fine. That it was just a bad date gone wrong. A controlling boyfriend. Nothing supernatural. Nothing impossible. They didn't believe me, but they were too relieved to argue. At home, alone, I tried everything to remove the ring. Ice to reduce the swelling. I even took a hacksaw from the garage and tried to cut through the metal. The blade snapped on the 3rd stroke, the ring unmarked. Unscratched. Invulnerable. I went to a jeweler the next morning. An old man with magnifying glasses and steady hands. He examined the ring carefully, turning my hand this way and that, his expression growing more troubled with each passing moment. "Where did you get this?" he asked finally. "My fiancé gave it to me." Ex-fiancé. "I need it off. I've seen work like this before. Very old work. 16th century, perhaps earlier." He looked up at me over his glasses. "This wasn't made to be removed, miss. The craftsmanship. It's designed to bond with the wearer. To become part of them. I've read about such rings in historical texts. Wedding bands that bound couples together for eternity. Literally. Can you cut it off?" He tried. For different tools. Diamond-tipped saws. Industrial cutters. Even a laser he brought in from the back. Nothing worked. The ring absorbed every attempt, growing warmer with each effort, pulsing against my skin like it was alive. "I'm sorry," the jeweler said finally. "I can't help you. Whatever this is, it's beyond my skill. Beyond anything I've seen in 40 years of this trade. You might try a surgeon. Amputation." I left before he could see me cry. That night, Sebastian called. Not my phone, my landline, the number I'd never given him. The one only family and close friends had. "Hello, Claire," his voice was soft, almost apologetic. "I hope you're well. I hope you're not in too much pain. The ring can be uncomfortable at first, I know. But you'll get used to it. In time, you won't even notice it's there. How did you get this number?" "I've had it for months. Had everything about you. I told you, I chose you very carefully. Waited. Learned every detail of your life. I needed to be sure you were the one. The one strong enough. The one who could bear what comes next. Leave me alone. I'll go to the police." "Oh. And tell them what? That you're wearing a ring you can't remove? That your ex-boyfriend is calling you? They'll think you're hysterical. Delusional. They might even section you if you mention cursed vows and eternal binding." His voice hardened. "No one will believe you, Claire. No one will help you. The only person who can end this is you. By saying the vows. By accepting what you already are. The ring has bonded with you. The ceremony was interrupted, yes, but not stopped. The vows are partially complete. You're caught between two states now, half bound and half free. Uncomfortable, I imagine. The pulling. The cold that seeps into your bones at night. The dreams." He was right about the dreams. For 3 nights I dreamed of the chapel. Of the witnesses. Of Sebastian standing at the altar, hand extended, waiting for me to return. And each morning I woke feeling colder. Weaker. As if something was slowly draining from me. What's happening to me? The binding is trying to complete itself. The ring is a conduit, remember? It's connected to me now. To the vows. To the 6 couples who came before. And incomplete bindings, they consume. They pull from both parties trying to force completion. You feel cold because your warmth is bleeding through the ring. And he paused. I feel you. Always. Your fear. Your pain. Your desperate hope that this is all a nightmare. I feel it all and it sustains me. Keeps me going. But it's not enough. Not nearly enough. How do I break it? How do I stop this? You can't. Not alone. The only way to break a binding is to complete it, to say the vows and become fully bonded, or to transfer it. To pass the ring to someone else. Someone who'll take your place. I'd never do that. Never trap someone else in this nightmare. Wouldn't you? His voice was soft, knowing. Wait until the cold gets worse. Until you can't sleep through the pulling. Until your life is bleeding away drop by drop and the only relief is to let the ring feed. To let it take from others instead of you. The previous brides all thought as you do now. All swore they'd never sacrifice another. But desperation changes people. Makes them capable of things they never imagined. He was right. God help me, he was right. Because even as he spoke, I could feel it. The hunger. Not mine but the ring's. Radiating from the metal into my flesh. I wanted to feed. Wanted to complete. Wanted to drag me back to that chapel and finish what was started. How long do I have? Days. Perhaps a week. The ring will consume you slowly at first, then faster. You'll weaken. Sicken. Your friends will think it's cancer or some wasting disease. Doctors will find nothing. And when you're too weak to resist, the ring will pull you back here. Back to me. Back to the altar. And I'll be waiting. Always waiting. He hung up. I tried to prove him wrong. Tried to fight it. But he knew me too well. Had studied me too carefully. Every attempt to resist made the cold worse. Every day I grew weaker. My skin turned pale. My breath came shallow. I could barely hold down food. My friends noticed, insisted I see a doctor. The tests came back normal. Everything normal. Except I was dying. Slowly. Invisibly. Consumed by a binding that shouldn't exist. On the fourth night, I dreamed of the chapel again. But this time I saw them clearly, the 6 couples. The witnesses. And they were trying to tell me something. Lips moving in unison, forming words I couldn't hear. Until one of them, the woman who tried to warn me, stepped forward. Her mouth moved slowly, deliberately. And finally I understood. The basement. Find the basement. Break the book. I woke gasping. The basement. What basement? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, just an address. The chapel's address. And underneath, you're running out of time. Come back. Finish it. Or you'll die incomplete, and your soul will be trapped in the ring forever, screaming in silence like the others before you who tried to resist. The others. How many had there been? How many besides the 6 couples I'd seen? I looked at the ring. In the darkness of my bedroom, it was glowing faintly. And in the glow I saw faces. Dozens of them. Pressed against the inside of the metal like prisoners against glass. Screaming silently. They were the ones who'd refused. Who'd died before completing the binding. Trapped forever in the ring's surface, feeding it with their eternal torment. I made my decision. The next morning I drove back to the chapel. Not to marry Sebastian. To find the basement. To break the book. The building looked different in daylight. Smaller, more decrepit, abandoned for decades by the look of it. The door was unlocked. Inside, the pews were thick with dust, the candles burned down to stubs. No sign of Sebastian or the witnesses. As if they only existed at night. Or only when the ceremony was active. I searched for an hour before finding it, a door hidden behind the altar, so covered in grime and shadow I'd missed it the first time. It opened onto stone steps descending into darkness. The basement was vast, cold, filled with the smell of earth and age. And everywhere were shelves, hundreds of them, all filled with rings, wedding bands, engagement rings, all styles, all eras, from crude medieval metalwork to Victorian filigree to modern platinum. Thousands of rings, all glowing faintly, all covered in the same symbols as mine. All containing faces pressed against the metal. Screaming. This wasn't Sebastian's collection. This was the collection of everyone who'd worn these rings. Everyone who'd participated in the ceremony over centuries. Every bride, every groom, every victim of the binding vows. And at the center of the room, on a stone pedestal, sat the book. The same book the officiant had read from. But here, in the basement, I could see it clearly. See the symbols carved into its cover. See the names written on its pages. Hundreds of them, thousands dating back centuries. Every person who'd ever been bound. Every soul the vows had consumed. And at the end, in fresh ink, still wet, Claire Morrison. My name was already written in the book. The binding had already claimed me. I just hadn't finished dying yet. I grabbed the book, ready to destroy it, to burn it, to tear it apart. But the moment my fingers touched its cover, I felt them. All of them. Every soul trapped in every ring on every shelf. Their pain. Their fear. Their endless, hopeless eternity. And I understood. Destroying the book wouldn't free them. It would trap them forever. The book was the only thing keeping them conscious, keeping them aware. Without it, they'd be lost in the binding, scattered across the rings, unable to even scream. The book was their prison and their anchor. Their hell and their only hope. I couldn't destroy it. But I couldn't leave it either. Behind me, a voice. You're learning. Good. Sebastian stood at the bottom of the stairs. Not alone. The 6 couples were with him, their fused hands pulling them forward like puppets on strings. And behind them, more. Dozens more. Centuries of brides and grooms, all bound, all enslaved, all part of the collection. The book can't be destroyed, Sebastian said, descending the final steps. It's bound to all of us. To every ring, every vow, every soul it's consumed. Destroy it and you destroy us all. Trap us in an eternity without even the mercy of awareness. Is that what you want? To damn thousands of souls to mindless suffering? What do you want me to do? Complete the binding. Say the vows. Become my seventh bride. And when you do, I'll be released. Free. Finally able to die. And you? He gestured to the assembled couples, to the shelves of rings, to the book. You'll inherit all of this. The collection. The ceremony. The endless search for your own seven. It's a burden, yes. But it's also power. Purpose. Eternity. The bound couples moved closer, surrounding me. I could see it now, the hierarchy. The oldest couples, barely more than corpses held upright by the vows. The newer ones still fresh, still fighting. And at the center, Sebastian. The current anchor. The one who held them all together. If I refuse? Then the ring continues to drain you. Within days you'll be too weak to move. Within a week you'll die. And your soul will join the others in my ring. He held up his left hand. On it, a band identical to mine. And pressed against its surface, hundreds of faces. Maybe thousands. All the ones who'd refused. All the ones he'd consumed. You'll spend eternity there, Claire. Where? Suffering. Trapped. Is that really better than accepting your role? Taking your place in the cycle? I looked at the book. At my name written in fresh ink. At the empty line below it, waiting for the date of my binding. There has to be another way, I whispered. There isn't, Sebastian said. This is the only way it's ever been. The only way it can be. The vows are eternal. The binding is absolute. You can choose to be the anchor or the prisoner. But you can't choose to be free. The couples chanted softly now. The vows. Always the vows. Filling the basement with their ancient, terrible words. And the ring on my finger pulsed. Pulling. Demanding. Hungry. I had to choose. Anchor or prisoner. Eternity in control or eternity in torment. 7 brides or endless screaming. Choose, Sebastian urged. Choose now. While you still can. While you're still strong enough to make the choice. I stared at the book. At my name. At the choice that wasn't really a choice at all. What happens to you? I asked Sebastian. If I complete the binding. If I become the 7th bride. What happens to you? His expression softened. Relief flooded his features. I die. Finally. Truly. The vows release me. I get to rest after 247 years of this half-existence. And you? He stepped closer, reaching for my hand. You become the anchor. The collector. The one who waits. Just as I have waited. For how long? Until you find your 7. Until you bind 7 souls to yourself. Then you'll be released and one of them will take your place. The cycle continues. Always continues. Forever. That's monstrous. That's survival. His voice hardened. Do you think I wanted this? I was young once. In love. I thought the vows were romantic. Beautiful. A way to ensure my marriage would last forever. I didn't know what forever truly meant until it was too late. Until Arabella died and I couldn't follow. Until I realized the vows weren't about love. They were about consumption. About feeding an ancient magic that predates Christianity, predates civilization itself. He gestured to the shelves of rings. Every culture has had them. Binding rituals. Ways to chain souls together. Most were broken, forgotten, lost to time. But this one survived. Because it's self-perpetuating. Each anchor finds their 7, passes on the burden, and the cycle continues. Generation after generation. Century after century. Someone has to break it, I said. Someone has to end this. Many have tried. All have failed. The book can't be destroyed. The rings can't be removed. The vows can't be unsaid. The only way out is through. Accept your role or join the collection. The bound couples pressed closer. I could see their eyes now, some pleading, some empty, some filled with a madness born of endless captivity. They wanted me to choose. Needed me to choose. Because my choice would affect them all. If I become the anchor, I said slowly, what happens to them? The 6 couples? The ones you've already bound? They're released from me. But they remain bound to each other. Forever fused. Forever together. They'll be free to leave to live what remains of their existence, but they'll never be separate. Never be alone. He looked at them with something that might have been pity. Some mercy, really. At least they'll have each other. At least they won't be imprisoned in a ring. I looked at the woman who'd warned me. At her husband, bound to her by melted flesh and ancient magic. They'd been together for over a century, Sebastian had said. Trapped in an embrace that could never end. Was that better than screaming in silence? I wasn't sure. And if I refuse? If I choose the ring? Then I remain the anchor. I continue searching. And when I find my 7th bride, and I will find one eventually, I'll be free. And your soul will remain trapped in my ring forever. Where? Suffering. Feeding my existence with your eternal torment. You'll feel every moment of every century that follows. You'll watch through the ring as I bind others, as I collect more souls, as the cycle continues without you. The ring on my finger burned hotter. As if it knew we were discussing its nature. As if it was eager to consume me, to add my face to the hundreds already screaming against its inner surface. I closed my eyes. Thought of my life before all this. My friends. My job. My small, ordinary existence that I'd thought was too lonely, too empty, too pathetic. How desperately I wished I could return to it now. How precious that loneliness seemed compared to this choice between 2 eternities of horror. There's a third option, a voice said. I opened my eyes. One of the bound couples had spoken. The Victorian-era pair, their hands fused together, their clothing moth-eaten and ancient. The man looked at me with eyes that still held a spark of defiance. Don't listen to him, Sebastian snapped. There is no third option. There's never been. The ritual requires consent, the Victorian man continued, speaking quickly, desperately. Not verbal consent but spiritual. The soul must accept the binding on some level. That's why Sebastian had to make you fall in love with him. Why he had to craft the perfect romance. Because if you'd known what he was from the start, if you'd never opened your heart to him even a little, the binding wouldn't have taken. The ring wouldn't have bonded. That's not, Sebastian started. It is. You know it is. The old texts are clear. The binding requires a willing heart, though the mind may resist. The Victorian man turned back to me. You let him in, Claire. You opened yourself to the possibility of loving him. That's what allowed the ring to bond. That's what started the ceremony. Then it's too late, I said. I already... But you stopped loving him. When you saw the truth. When you understood what he was. Your heart closed. The binding is incomplete because you withdrew your consent. The ring is bonded, yes, but it can't complete the ceremony without your willingness. That's why it's draining you. Why it's trying to weaken you. It's trying to force your compliance. But as long as your heart rejects the binding, it can't complete, I breathed. The ceremony can't finish. Sebastian's face contorted with rage. You'll die anyway. The ring will consume you. All you'll accomplish is a slower, more painful death. Maybe, the Victorian man said. Or maybe the ring will exhaust itself. Will drain too much and break the binding. No one's ever resisted long enough to find out. Most accept the binding within days. The few who didn't. He glanced at the faces in Sebastian's ring. They lost consciousness before the conclusion. We don't know what would happen if someone stayed conscious. Stayed resistant. Stayed unwilling to the very end. It's suicide, Sebastian hissed. Pointless suicide that won't free anyone or change anything. But it might, I said. It might break the cycle, or at least prove it can be broken. I looked at the book again, at the shelves of rings, at the centuries of souls trapped in this nightmare. Someone had to try. Someone had to resist, even if it meant my death, even if it meant an eternity of screaming. Someone had to prove that the cycle wasn't absolute, that there was another choice besides anchor or prisoner. I refuse, I said clearly. I refuse to say the vows. I refuse to bind anyone else. I refuse to become you, Sebastian. And I refuse to make your choice easier by dying quickly. I'll resist as long as I can, as long as consciousness lasts, as long as there's any spark of me left that can say no. You're a fool, Sebastian said, but there was something in his voice. Fear. Uncertainty. As if he'd never encountered this before. As if, after 247 years, he'd finally met someone who chose a third path. Maybe. But I'm a fool who won't damn anyone else to this hell. The ring flared white-hot. Pain shot through my hand, up my arm into my chest. It was feeding now, drinking deeply, trying to consume me before I could resist further. I fell to my knees, gasping as cold flooded my veins. The bound couple stepped back. Some looked horrified. Some looked hopeful. The Victorian man nodded slowly, something like respect in his ancient eyes. Sebastian just stood there, watching, as I'd watched him from across that Valentine's party, as he'd watched me for months before we met. Now he watched as I chose death over damnation, as I let the ring take everything rather than pass the curse to another. You'll regret this, he said quietly, when the cold becomes unbearable, when your consciousness starts to fragment, when you realize dying is better than this half-existence. You'll call out for me, beg me to complete the binding. They all do. In the end, they all beg. Then I'll beg, I gasped. But I won't mean it. My heart will never consent. Never. He turned away, walked back up the stairs. The bound couples followed, pulled by invisible strings, their fused hands dragging them along. Only the Victorian couple hesitated at the threshold. There's a journal, the man said quickly, in the desk upstairs. Write down what's happening. Document your resistance. If you survive, if the binding breaks, others need to know it's possible. If you don't, he swallowed, at least there'll be a record. Proof that someone tried. Then they were gone. I was alone in the basement with the shelves of screaming rings and the book that contained my name. The cold was worse now, spreading. My vision blurred. My thoughts scattered. But I crawled to the stairs, climbed them one agonizing step at a time. Found the desk, the journal, a pen that barely worked with my frozen fingers. I wrote everything, this story, these words, my name, my choice, my refusal. And as I wrote, the ring fed, drained, consumed. But I kept writing, kept resisting, kept saying no with every word, every sentence, every page. I don't know how long I lasted. Days maybe. The journal is filled with my handwriting growing weaker, more erratic, barely legible towards the end. But I wrote until I couldn't anymore. Until the cold took my fingers, my hands, my ability to hold the pen. And then I just was conscious but unable to move, aware but fading. The ring glowed brighter as it consumed the last of me. And I waited for the end, for the moment when I'd either die completely or be trapped in the metal forever. But something strange happened. The ring started to crack. Fine lines appeared across its surface. The symbols flickered. The faces trapped inside began to fade. And the cold, the terrible, consuming cold, started to recede. The binding was breaking. I'd resisted long enough, refused long enough, stayed unwilling long enough that the magic couldn't sustain itself, couldn't complete without consent, couldn't force what I wouldn't give. The ring shattered. Pieces of silver fell from my finger, dissolving into dust before hitting the floor. And with them I felt release, warmth, freedom. I was still weak, still half dead from what the ring had taken. But I was free. I don't know what happened to Sebastian, to the bound couples, to the collection. I left that journal in the chapel and never went back. Never wanted to know if my resistance had freed them or simply interrupted the cycle until he found another victim. But sometimes I wonder. And sometimes late at night I hear a phone ring. Feel a pull I can't explain. Wake up with the phantom sensation of metal around my finger. The binding may be broken, but the memory remains. The knowledge that somewhere out there, Sebastian is still searching. Still collecting. Still waiting for his seventh bride. And every Valentine's Day I stay inside. Lock the doors. Turn off my phone. Avoid every party, every gathering, every chance encounter. Because I know he's out there. And I know that for him I was the one who got away. The one he'll never stop hunting. The one he'll wait centuries more to claim. She's still there. Still wearing the scars where the ring used to be. Still checking every Valentine's Day to make sure no mysterious invitations arrive. Still waiting for Valentine's Day, when he brings home number 7. The chapel still stands. The book still contains her name. And every year, on February 14th, someone new receives an invitation to a party they almost don't attend. Someone new meets someone perfect. Someone new gets proposed to with an antique ring. The cycle continues. And somewhere Sebastian is smiling. Because 7 is the number of completion. And he's very, very patient. If you're watching this alone right now, maybe check your doors are locked. And subscribe so you never miss a story like this. And if anyone ever proposes with a ring that feels too cold, that has symbols you don't recognize, run. Just run. Story 5. The restaurant where no one leaves. The invitation arrived on February 10th. Not in the mail. Not via email. It simply appeared on my kitchen counter while I was in the shower. Cream-colored cardstock, heavy and expensive, with gold embossed lettering that caught the light. You are cordially invited to an exclusive Valentine's Day dining experience at Le Coeur Eternal. February 14th, 8 p.m. Dress formal. Dining partner required. This invitation admits to RSVP not necessary, we already know you're coming. I stared at it, water still dripping from my hair. I lived alone. My door had been locked. No one had come in. No one could have. And yet there it was. Real. Solid. Impossible. I should have thrown it away immediately. Should have called the police, reported a break-in, changed the locks. But there was something about that last line that hooked me. We already know you're coming. It felt like a challenge. Like destiny. Like inevitability. And the truth was I had been feeling desperate. My boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, had dumped me 3 weeks ago. Via text. On what would have been our 2-year anniversary. He'd already made reservations somewhere for Valentine's Day with someone else. Posted about it online. Made sure I'd see. I'd been crying for weeks. Eating ice cream at 2 a.m. Watching couples walk past my flat holding hands and wanting to scream. Valentine's Day was looming like a death sentence. A reminder that I was alone, unwanted, forgotten. And now this. An exclusive invitation. A chance to show up somewhere elegant on Valentine's Day with a date. To post my own photos. To prove I wasn't pathetic. To pretend for one night that I was wanted. The problem was the requirement. Dining partner required. I didn't have one. My friends were all coupled up, busy with their own Valentine's plans. And asking someone to be my fake date to a mysterious restaurant I knew nothing about seemed complicated. So I did what any modern desperate person does. I went on social media. Posted a photo of the invitation with the caption, "Got invited to this exclusive Valentine's restaurant but need a +1. Anyone free on the 14th? Promise it'll be interesting." The responses came within minutes. Dozens of them. Apparently, I wasn't the only lonely person in the city. But one stood out. I got the same invitation. Was just about to post asking if anyone wanted to join. Want to go together? Strength in numbers and all that. James. I checked his profile. Attractive. recently single based on his posts. Seemed normal enough. And more importantly, he'd received the same impossible invitation, which meant I wasn't losing my mind. We messaged. Agreed to meet outside the restaurant at 7:45 p.m. Safety in numbers like he'd said. If the place seemed dodgy, we'd leave. Simple. I didn't research the restaurant. Didn't look up reviews or check its location on maps. I told myself I wanted it to be a surprise. But the truth was deeper and more unsettling. Some part of me didn't want to know. Didn't want to find evidence that would make me cancel. Because I needed this. Needed to feel wanted, even if it was by a mysterious restaurant that somehow knew I'd accept. February 14th arrived cold and gray. I spent the day getting ready, hair, makeup, the red dress I'd bought for the anniversary dinner that never happened. By 7:30 p.m. I looked perfect. Felt empty. But at least I looked the part. The invitation had an address but no street name I recognized. I had to use GPS, watching as it guided me to a part of the city I'd never been to before. Old buildings. Narrow streets. The kind of area that looked romantic in films but vaguely threatening in real life. The restaurant appeared like something from another era. A converted Victorian mansion, all dark stone and iron gates, with warm light spilling from tall windows. A brass plaque beside the door read, Liqueur Eternal 1847. James was already there, standing outside the gates, looking as nervous as I felt. He cleaned up well, dark suit, nervous smile, holding a single rose that he handed to me awkwardly. For courage, he said. Or luck. Or, I don't know. It seemed like the thing to do. I liked him immediately. We stood together looking up at the restaurant. Through the windows we could see other couples already seated. Candlelight. White tablecloths. Everything elegant and perfect and exactly what Valentine's Day was supposed to be. Still want to do this? James asked. We've come this far, I said, forcing confidence I didn't feel. And I really don't want to spend tonight alone watching Netflix and crying into wine. Same. Okay. Together? Together. We walked through the gates, up the stone steps, pushed open the heavy wooden door. The moment we stepped inside, something changed. The air was warmer here, thicker, scented with roses and something else I couldn't identify. Something old. The door swung shut behind us with a soft click. A maitre d' appeared instantly, tall, gaunt, dressed in a tuxedo that looked Victorian in cut. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Good evening. Welcome to Liqueur Eternal. You must be Claire Morrison and James Fletcher. We've been expecting you. How did you? Your invitation, please. We handed them over. He examined them carefully, then tucked them into his jacket pocket. Not placed on a desk or in a holder, into his pocket as if claiming them. As if ensuring we couldn't take them back. Perfect. Your table is ready. This way. He led us through the entrance hall, past a coat check where our coats were taken by silent attendants who moved like shadows, into the main dining room. It was beautiful, breathtaking even. A vast space with vaulted ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and tables for two arranged around a central dance floor. Every table was occupied by couples in formal dress, all beautiful, all perfect, all sitting in silence. That's what struck me first. The silence. No conversation. No laughter. No clink of silverware or glasses. Just couples sitting across from each other, staring, unmoving, like mannequins arranged for a photograph. Your table, the maitre d' said, gesturing to a spot near the center of the room. James and I sat. The chairs were antique, uncomfortable, positioned perfectly across from each other. The table was set with crystal and silver and china so delicate it looked like it might shatter if touched. And then we waited. This is weird, right? James whispered. Everyone's just sitting there. Maybe the food hasn't been served yet. Maybe they're waiting for. A waiter appeared beside us. Another tall, gaunt figure in Victorian dress. He placed menus in front of us without speaking, then glided away. I opened mine. The pages were old, the text written in elaborate calligraphy. But there were no prices, no descriptions, just names of dishes in French that I couldn't translate. "Can you read this?" I asked James. He was staring at his menu, face pale. "Claire, these aren't dishes. I think these are names. Human names." I looked again. He was right. Marie Dubois, Thomas Ashworth, Elizabeth Chin. Dozens of names arranged in columns under headers like appetizers, main course, dessert. "We need to leave," I said, standing. But James wasn't moving. He was staring past me towards the entrance. "Claire, the door." I turned. Where the entrance had been, there was now only wall. Smooth. Unbroken. As if the door had never existed. The windows, the tall, beautiful windows that had shown the street outside, now showed only darkness. Infinite, empty darkness, pressing against the glass like water against the hull of a ship. And the other couples, the silent, perfect couples, all turned their heads as one to look at us. They smiled. And began to eat. "Sit down," James hissed, grabbing my wrist. "Don't draw attention. Just sit down. Please." I sat, my legs giving out more than obeying. The other couples had returned to their meals, movements synchronized, mechanical. Forks lifting to mouths in perfect unison. Glasses tilting at identical angles. Chewing with the same rhythm like a dozen metronomes ticking in harmony. "What is this place?" I whispered. "I don't know, but we need to stay calm. Find another exit. There has to be." The waiter returned. Set 2 plates before us without a word. The food looked exquisite. Some kind of meat in a dark sauce, garnished with herbs and edible flowers. It smelled incredible. My stomach growled despite my terror. "We're not eating that," I said. "Of course not. We just need to." "I would recommend the house special," a voice said. I looked up. A woman at the next table had spoken. She was beautiful in a timeless way, her gown from the 1920s, her hair styled in finger waves. But her eyes were wrong. Too bright. Too aware. Too old. "The chef takes great pride in his preparation," she continued, her voice carrying an accent I couldn't place. "Each dish is crafted specifically for the guest. Your meal has been waiting for you. It would be unfortunate to refuse." "We didn't order anything," James said. The woman smiled. "Oh, but you did. The moment you accepted the invitation. The moment you stepped through the door. The moment you sat at your table. Every choice you made was an order being placed. And now," she gestured delicately at our plates. "Now it's time to pay." "Pay what?" "Attention. That's all we ask. Pay attention to your meal. Appreciate it. Consume it. Become it." Her smile widened impossibly. "It's all part of the experience." James pushed his plate away. "We're leaving." "No one leaves," said a man at another table. He wore a Victorian suit, his beard waxed to sharp points. "No one has left since 1847. Since the first Valentine's Day dinner. Since the first guests accepted the first invitation." I looked around the room with new eyes. Really looked at the couples. Their clothing spanned eras. Victorian, Edwardian, 1920s, 50s, 80s, and modern. Some had been here for decades. Centuries. "You're all trapped here?" I breathed. "Trapped is such an unpleasant word," the Victorian man said. "We prefer to think of ourselves as permanent residents. Eternal guests. We dined here on Valentine's Day, and the restaurant was so pleased with us that it asked us to stay. Forever." "That's insane," James said. "Is it? You came here seeking connection, romance, an escape from loneliness. The restaurant provides all of that. Perfect company. Eternal togetherness. A Valentine's Day that never ends." He gestured around the room. Everyone here came looking for the same thing. And they found it. A bell chimed. Crystal and pure, the sound reverberated through the dining room. The other couples set down their silverware in unison, turned to face the center of the room. The floor there began to open. Not breaking or cracking, simply opening like a mouth yawning wide. From the darkness below, a platform rose carrying 3 figures. They were dressed as chefs, in white stained with something that looked disturbingly like old blood. Their faces were covered by masks, porcelain painted with grotesque smiles. And between them they carried a silver platter covered by a dome. "The main course," someone whispered reverently. The chefs set the platter on a central table I hadn't noticed before. One of them lifted the dome with a flourish. Underneath was a person. Not dead. Not quite. Alive but motionless, arranged artistically on the platter, garnished with herbs and flowers. A man, young, eyes wide with terror but unable to move, unable to scream. I recognized the expression. I'd seen it on every couple in this room. The look of someone who'd realized too late that they were trapped. "Tonight's special," the woman in the 1920s dress announced, "is Thomas Crawford. He arrived last Valentine's Day. Refused to eat. Refused to participate. Thought he could resist. And so," she smiled sadly, "he became the meal instead." The chefs began to carve. Not butchering, serving. Delicate slices placed on fine china. The man's eyes followed their movements, aware, conscious, trapped in his own body as it was consumed. The other couples lined up, one from each table, approaching the central platter with empty plates, receiving their portion, returning to their seats. "This is what happens to those who refuse," the Victorian man said. "You either eat, or are eaten. There is no third option. There is no escape. There is only the eternal Valentine's dinner, and your choice of whether to participate, or become the next course." James stood abruptly. No, we're not doing this. We're not staying here. We're not eating anyone. We're leaving." He grabbed my hand, pulled me to my feet. We ran, not towards where the door had been but towards the windows. If we couldn't exit through the door, we'd break through the glass. James grabbed a chair, lifted it, swung it at the nearest window. The chair shattered. The window remained pristine. Unmarked. Uncrackable. "The restaurant doesn't let go of its guests easily," the 1920s woman said from her table, unbothered by our attempt. "The walls are not walls. The windows are not windows. This space exists outside your normal reality, sealed away from the world. You could break every piece of furniture, shatter every glass, and you'd still be here. Still trapped. Still hungry." I looked at the windows again. Pressed my face close to the glass. The darkness outside wasn't empty, it was moving. Writhing. Like we were underwater, or underground, or inside something vast and alive. "What is this place?" I demanded. "It's exactly what it claims to be," another diner said. "A woman in 1950s pearls and victory rolls. An exclusive dining experience. A restaurant where every Valentine's Day, special guests are invited. A place where lonely people come seeking connection, and find it. Forever." "The restaurant is alive," the Victorian man added. "It feeds on loneliness, on desperation, on the kind of aching need that makes people accept mysterious invitations from unknown sources. It finds the perfect victims, those desperate enough to ignore warning signs, lonely enough to take risks, hungry enough for connection that they'll walk into a trap. It sends invitations to those who need them most," the 1920s woman continued. "Those who'll say yes despite the impossibility. And when they arrive, when they sit, when they're presented with the meal." She gestured at the central platter where the chefs were still serving. "They either eat and become part of the restaurant forever, or refuse and become the meal themselves. There has to be a way out," James said. "There's always a way out. Is there?" The Victorian man tilted his head. "We've all thought that. I've been here since 1873. Margaret arrived in 1924. Thomas and Elizabeth came in 1956. Every Valentine's Day, new guests arrive. And every Valentine's Day they join us, either as diners or as dinner. In 177 years, no one has escaped. No one has found the way out. Because there isn't one. The chefs approached our table. Set down new plates. These contained portions of Thomas Crawford. Still living. Still aware. His eyes in the meat stared up at us, pleading, terrified. I was going to be sick. Eat, one of the chefs said, his voice muffled behind the porcelain mask. Or join him. How long? I choked out. How long do we have to choose? Until the meal is finished. Until every guest has been served. Until the main course is consumed. The chef gestured to the central platter. When the last piece is taken, those who haven't eaten become tomorrow's preparation. I looked at the platter. At least 30 couples in the room, each taking a small portion. The meal would last hours. Hours to find a way out. Hours to escape. Hours to survive. Don't eat, James whispered to me. Whatever happens, don't eat. We'll find another way. We have to. But as I looked around the room at the couples who'd been here for decades, for centuries, I wondered if there was another way. If the restaurant would ever let us go. If we'd become like them, eternal guests at an eternal dinner, trapped in a nightmare that renewed itself every February 14th. The waiter appeared beside us again. Filled our wine glasses with something dark and thick that definitely wasn't wine. The first course is just the beginning, he said. There are many courses to come. Many hours until dawn. Many chances to choose. Will you dine with us, Miss Morrison, Mr. Fletcher? Or will you become dessert? He glided away before we could answer. James and I sat in silence, staring at the plates before us. At the eyes that still blinked. At the meal that had been human hours ago. At the choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Around us the other couples ate. Chewed. Swallowed. Their movements synchronized, their expressions blank. And from the darkness beyond the windows I heard it. Breathing. Deep. Slow. Rhythmic. The restaurant was alive. And it was hungry. And we had just become the next meal. James and I pushed our plates away simultaneously. The portions of Thomas Crawford sat there, still warm, still somehow aware. I couldn't look at them. Couldn't process what we were being asked to do. There has to be a kitchen, James whispered. A way the food gets in and out. A service entrance. Something. The chefs came from below, I said, remembering the platform that had risen from the floor. There's something down there. A basement. Maybe a way out. We looked at each other. A silent agreement passed between us. We had hours until the main course was finished. Hours to find an escape before we became the next meal. But the moment we stood, the waiters appeared. 6 of them, materializing from the shadows, blocking our path. Their porcelain masks gleamed in the candlelight, painted smiles never wavering. Guests must remain seated during service, one said, his voice hollow behind the mask. It's improper to leave the table before the meal is complete. We just need to use the restroom, James lied. The waiter tilted his head. There are no restrooms here. No exits. No doors except the one you entered through. And that door. He gestured to where it had been. The wall remained smooth and unbroken. That door only opens when the restaurant wishes it. When it's time for new guests to arrive. Or old guests to be removed. Removed where? I asked. To the larder. Where next year's ingredients are prepared. Where those who refuse to dine are stored until they're needed. The waiter's mask seemed to smile wider. Thomas Crawford has been in preparation for a year. Kept alive. Kept fresh. Kept conscious. So that when he's served, when he's consumed, his awareness makes the meal more potent. I felt bile rise in my throat. You keep them alive? For a year. The restaurant feeds on more than flesh, Miss Morrison. It feeds on fear. On despair. On the slow, creeping horror of knowing what's coming. Each meal is seasoned with a year of dread. It makes the dining experience unforgettable. James grabbed my hand. We won't eat. We won't participate. You can't force us. Can't we? The waiter snapped his fingers. Instantly, my body moved on its own. Against my will, I sat down, picked up my fork, raised it towards the plate. No! I screamed, but my hand kept moving. The fork speared a piece of meat, lifted it towards my mouth. James was experiencing the same thing, fighting his own body, his face contorted with effort as his hand betrayed him. The restaurant is not just a building, the waiter said. It's a space, a bubble outside normal reality. And inside this space, it has certain privileges. It can make guests comply when necessary. Make them eat. Make them stay. Make them become part of the eternal dinner whether they wish to or not. My hand was inches from my mouth now. I could smell the meat. Could see the eye embedded in it, still watching, still pleading. I fought with everything I had, every muscle straining, but my body didn't belong to me anymore. Stop. Someone shouted. My hand froze. I looked up, gasping. The woman in the 1920s dress was standing, her partner rising with her, their hands still fused together from decades of captivity. You said the rules yourself, she called to the waiters. Guests must choose. Willingly. Forcing them breaks the ritual. Breaks the magic. The meal loses its potency when consent is violated. The waiters turned to her in unison. Margaret Chin. You dare interrupt service. I dare speak the truth. You know I'm right. The restaurant thrives on willing consumption. On guests who choose to eat, who choose to stay, who choose damnation over death. Force-feeding them changes nothing. Adds nothing. The feast requires agreement, however reluctant. The pressure on my body released. My hand dropped, fork clattering to the plate. James slumped forward, gasping. The head waiter regarded Margaret for a long moment, then nodded. You're correct. The protocols must be observed. Very well. He turned back to us. You may refuse for now. But understand, when the main course is consumed, you'll be given one final choice. Eat willingly, or be eaten. There is no negotiation. No delay. Only choice. The waiters glided away. Margaret and her partner sat down again, and I saw her lips move, forming silent words. Find the book. In the kitchen. Break the cycle. What book? I mouthed back. But she'd already turned away, returning her attention to her own plate, her own eternal meal. James and I sat in stunned silence for a moment. Then he leaned across the table, voice barely audible. Did you see that? The floor. Where the chefs came from. It's still open. Just a crack. I looked. He was right. The platform had descended, but the opening hadn't fully closed. A thin gap remained, darkness visible below. If we can get down there, James continued, into the kitchen or basement or whatever's below, maybe we can find this book Margaret mentioned. Maybe we can end this. Or maybe we'll just get caught and turned into tomorrow's appetizer. Do we have a choice? I looked around the dining room. At the couples eating mechanically. At Thomas Crawford on his platter, being slowly consumed while still conscious. At the windows showing only endless void. At the walls that had no exits. No, I admitted. We don't. We waited. Watched. The other couples were focused on their meals, moving in that eerie synchronization. The waiters circulated, pouring drinks, clearing plates, bringing new courses. But their attention was on the service, the ritual, maintaining the perfect facade of an elegant dinner. When the head waiter's back was turned, when the chefs had retreated to the shadows, James squeezed my hand. Now, he whispered. We moved quickly but quietly. Stood from our table. Crossed the dining room towards the central platform. No one stopped us. No one seemed to notice. As if we'd become invisible by simply refusing to participate in the meal. The gap in the floor was narrow, barely wide enough for a person. James went first, lowering himself into the darkness, disappearing from view. I followed, my dress catching on the edge, tearing, but I didn't care. The drop was further than expected. I landed hard on stone, James catching me before I fell. We were in darkness, complete and absolute, the temperature dropping 20 degrees in an instant. "Where are we?" I whispered. "Feels like a tunnel. Stone walls. I can't see anything." We felt our way forward, hands on cold stone, moving blindly through the black. The air smelled wrong, not like a restaurant kitchen but like earth and age and something rotting. After what felt like hours but was probably minutes, we saw light ahead. Flickering. Orange. Candlelight. We emerged into a vast underground space. Not a kitchen. Not a basement. A catacomb. Shelves lined the walls, stretching into darkness. And on those shelves, bodies. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All arranged neatly, all still living, all conscious. Their eyes followed us as we passed, pleading silently, trapped in their own flesh, waiting to be served. "Oh God," I choked. "This is the larder. This is where they keep next year's meals. And the year after. And the year after that." James pointed. Some of the bodies were desiccated, ancient, preserved by whatever magic kept this place existing. How long has this been going on? How many people has this restaurant consumed? At the far end of the catacomb we found it. A kitchen. But not a normal kitchen. This was something from a nightmare. Massive stone ovens. Hooks hanging from the ceiling. Tables stained dark with centuries of use. And in the center, sitting on a pedestal like a holy relic, a book. The menu. The original menu. Bound in leather that looked disturbingly human, its pages thick and yellowed with age. James grabbed it, flipped it open. The pages were filled with names. Thousands of them. Written in different hands, different eras, different languages. Every person who'd ever been served at Le Coeur Eternal. "This is it," he breathed. "This is the record. The binding. If we destroy this." "You'll destroy nothing," a voice said. We spun. The chefs stood in the doorway, their porcelain masks gleaming in the candlelight. Behind them the waiters. And behind them the maitre d', his Victorian suit immaculate, his expression calm. "The book cannot be destroyed by guests," the maitre d' said. "Only by the restaurant itself. And the restaurant will never choose to end its feast. Never choose to release its collection. Never choose to starve." "What is this place?" I demanded. "What are you?" "We are the service, the staff, the eternal hosts of an eternal dinner. We were the first guests, you see. The original diners who accepted the first invitation in 1847. We ate the first meal, spoke the first toast, and in doing so we became bound to this place, became part of it. We are the restaurant now as much as the walls and the tables and the void outside." "The restaurant is alive," James said, understanding dawning. "It's a thing. An entity. And you're its organs. Its hands and mouth and its hunger," the maitre d' finished. "Yes. We are its hunger made manifest. And every Valentine's Day we invite new guests. New meals. New choices. Some become diners like Margaret and the others upstairs. Some become meals like Thomas. But all become part of the feast. All feed the hunger. All sustain the restaurant for another year." The chefs moved forward, surrounding us. Their hands were empty, but I didn't think they needed weapons. Not here. Not in the heart of the restaurant, where reality bent to its will. "You wanted to find the book," the maitre d' said. "Now you have. Read the last page. See what's written there." James turned to the final page. His face went pale. "What?" I asked. "What does it say?" He turned the book towards me. The last two entries written in fresh ink, still wet. Claire Morrison, main course, February 14th, 2025. James Fletcher, main course, February 14th, 2025. Our names. Already written. Already decided. Already served. "The moment you accepted the invitation," the maitre d' said, "the moment you stepped through the door, the moment you sat at your table, you were added to the menu. The only question was whether you'd be served this year or next, whether you'd dine or be dined upon. And we chose not to eat, I whispered. So you chose to be eaten. The main course is nearly finished. Thomas Crawford has been almost entirely consumed, which means... The maitre d' smiled. It's time to prepare tomorrow's dinner. Time to take you to the larder. Time to begin your year of marination in fear and despair. Time to make you tender. The chefs grabbed us. Their grip was iron, inhuman, impossible to break. They dragged us deeper into the kitchen, towards the hooks, towards the preparation tables, towards a future of conscious horror that would last a full year before we were finally, mercifully served. Wait, James shouted. Wait, we'll eat. We'll dine. We choose to eat. Too late, the maitre d' said. The choice must be made before the main course is finished. And Thomas? He checked a pocket watch. Thomas has just been entirely consumed. The window has closed. Your fate is sealed. They lifted us towards the hooks. I screamed, fought, but it made no difference. And then I remembered Margaret's words. Find the book. In the kitchen. Break the cycle. Not destroy the book. Break the cycle. James? I shouted. The book? Right in it. Change the menu. He understood instantly. Wrenched one arm free, grabbed a pen from the preparation table, and scrawled frantically in the book's margin. The maitre d', dessert February 14, 2025. All waiters side dishes February 14, 2025. All chefs, appetizers, February 14, 2025. The effect was immediate. The chefs screamed, dropping us, clutching their throats. The waiters collapsed. The maitre d' froze, horror dawning on his face. What have you done? He gasped. Added you to the menu, James said. If the book decides who gets eaten, we just decided it's your turn. The maitre d' lurched forward, reaching for the book, but his body betrayed him. His legs gave out, knees hitting the stone floor with a crack. The chefs and waiters writhed on the ground, their porcelain masks cracking, revealing the desiccated faces beneath, faces that had been serving for nearly 2 centuries, sustained only by the restaurant's hunger. You can't do this, the maitre d' choked. We're the service. We're essential. The restaurant needs us to function. Without us, there's no one to serve the meals. No one to maintain the ritual. No one to trap more victims, I finished. Good. The floor beneath us began to tremble. The restaurant was responding. Angry. The walls pulsed like living tissue, the air growing thick and hot, the candlelight flickering violently. From above, we heard screams, the diners upstairs reacting to whatever was happening. The restaurant is dying, the maitre d' gasped, blood trickling from his mouth. Without its staff, without its servants, it can't sustain the ritual. Can't maintain the space outside reality. Can't keep the doors sealed. You've killed it. You've killed us all. Then everyone goes free, James said. No. The maitre d' laughed bitterly, the sound wet and broken. No, you fool. When the restaurant dies, everyone inside dies with it. The diners, the meals, the staff, all of us. This place exists outside time, outside space. When it collapses, there's nowhere for us to return to. The 1847 guests will cease to exist. They should have died 178 years ago. The 1920s guests will dissolve. They've been sustained by magic, not life. Even you too, you crossed the threshold, accepted the invitation, became part of the restaurant. When it dies, the trembling intensified. Cracks appeared in the stone walls. The shelves in the larder began to collapse, bodies tumbling to the floor, some crumbling to dust the moment they hit the ground, others screaming silently as they fell. What do we do? I shouted over the noise. James stared at the book, pages fluttering as if caught in a wind that didn't exist. The book controls the menu, controls who gets served. Margaret said break the cycle. Maybe she meant He grabbed the pen again, wrote frantically. All guests released February 14, 2025. All meals freed February 14, 2025. The restaurant closed permanently February 14, 2025. The moment he finished writing, the book burst into flames. Not burning, transforming. The leather cover peeled away, the pages dissolving into ash that swirled upward, forming symbols in the air. Ancient words. A contract being unmade. The maitre d' screamed. His body began to fade, becoming translucent, his Victorian suit dissolving into smoke. The chefs and waiters followed, their masks shattering completely, their screams cutting off mid-breath as they simply ceased. The restaurant convulsed violently. The ceiling cracked, and through the gaps, I saw not sky but void, the endless darkness that had pressed against the windows. We were inside something. Something vast and hungry. And it was dying. Run. James grabbed my hand, pulling me towards the stairs. We scrambled up, through the gap in the floor, into the dining room above. Chaos. The eternal guests were standing, screaming, some fading like the staff, others solidifying, becoming real again, becoming mortal again, time catching up with them all at once. The Victorian couple aged instantly, crumbling to dust. The 1920s guests followed, their bodies collapsing as decades of suspended animation ended in seconds. But Margaret and her partner were different. They were fading too, but slowly, their hands finally separating after a century of forced fusion. Run, she shouted at us, her voice already distant. The door. It's opening. Go. Where the wall had been, a door was materializing. Not the elegant entrance we'd come through, but something older. A crack in reality. A wound in the restaurant's dying flesh. James and I ran for it, dodging collapsing chandeliers and disintegrating tables. Behind us, the restaurant was folding in on itself, the space contracting, the void outside pressing inward, hungry to reclaim the bubble that had existed outside its domain for so long. We reached the door. Threw ourselves through it. Fell. Onto cold pavement. Outside. The real outside. February night air, sharp and clean and real. We gasped, coughing, our lungs burning from the restaurant's poisoned atmosphere. I looked back. The Victorian mansion was collapsing. Walls crumbling. Windows shattering. The building imploding in complete silence, folding inward until nothing remained but an empty lot overgrown with weeds. As if it had never existed at all. James and I lay on the pavement, breathing hard, unable to believe we'd escaped. Around us, the city was normal. Cars passing. People walking. The real world, continuing as it always had, unaware that a pocket of horror had just ceased to exist. Did we? I started. We survived, James finished. We actually survived. But as we stood brushing ourselves off, I saw them. Figures in the shadows. Translucent. Fading. The guest who'd managed to escape before the final collapse. Margaret was there, her partner beside her, both of them smiling despite their dissolution. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice like wind through dead leaves. "Thank you for ending it. For breaking the cycle. We've been trapped for so long. And now, what happens to you?" I asked. "We move on. Finally. To whatever comes after. To rest." She looked at her partner, decades of forced intimacy finally ending, and they smiled at each other with genuine affection. It wasn't all bad. We found love even in hell. And now we get to carry it with us. Wherever we're going. They faded completely. Became light. Became nothing. Other guests followed. Some angry at losing their eternal existence. Some grateful for release. Some simply confused. But all of them fading, returning to the timeline they'd left, going wherever the dead go when their imprisonment ends. Every word. "Claire, what if it's still out there? What if we didn't end it, just postponed it? It's been 3 days since the restaurant collapsed. We haven't received any new invitations. Haven't seen any signs that..." My laptop chimed. Email notification. I pulled it up, phone still pressed to my ear. One new message. Subject line. Liqueur Eternal, special invitation. I opened it with shaking hands. Dear Miss Morrison and Mr. Fletcher, thank you for dining with us this Valentine's Day. We hope you enjoyed your experience. Due to an unexpected closure, we will be relocating to a new venue for next year's celebration. We would be honored if you would join us again. After all, you left before dessert. With anticipation. The management. P.S. The reservation is already in your name. February 14th, 2026. You know you'll come. The hunger never dies. It only waits. Attached to the email was a photo. The empty lot where the restaurant had been. But in the photo taken just hours ago, according to the timestamp, something was different. A sign. Brand new. Planted in the overgrown weeds. Coming soon, Le Jardin Eternal Fine Dining Experience, opening Valentine's Day 2026. And beneath it in smaller text, now accepting reservations. James, I whispered into the phone. It's not over. No, he said quietly. I don't think it ever will be. The restaurant just changes, adapts, finds new forms, new victims. Thomas was right. We didn't kill it. We just made it angry. I looked out my window. Down at the street below. A couple walked past, both checking their phones. Both smiling at something on their screens. Invitations probably. Special offers. Exclusive dining experiences. Valentine's Day was still 10 months away. Plenty of time for the restaurant, or whatever it was becoming, to rebuild. To adapt. To prepare. What do we do? I asked. We warn people. We tell the story. We make sure that when those invitations go out, people know what they're accepting. Will anyone believe us? Long pause. Then, probably not. But we have to try. And next year, when Valentine's Day comes around, we'll be ready, I finished. We know what it is now. We know how it works. We can fight it again. Can we win? I looked at the email again. At the photo of the sign. At the promise that it was coming back. I don't know. But we're going to try. The restaurant still sends invitations every Valentine's Day. They're always accepted. No one ever leaves a bad review. And every year on February 14th, a new venue opens. Different name. Different location. Same hunger. Same trap. Same eternal dinner. If you receive an invitation to an exclusive Valentine's restaurant you've never heard of, if the address seems wrong, if it says RSVP not necessary, we already know you're coming, don't go. Don't accept. Don't believe the promise of connection and romance and an escape from loneliness. Because some dinners last forever. And the restaurant? The restaurant is always hungry. Comment where you'd never go on a Valentine's date after hearing this. And if you made it through all 5 stories without looking away, you're braver than most. Hit subscribe, we have hundreds more waiting in the dark. 5 stories. 5 Valentine's days. 5 nightmares disguised as romance. A chocolate box that refills with more than sweetness. A lover who crawled back from the grave, unwilling to let death end what he believed was forever. A dating profile that doesn't just match. It hunts, it consumes, it adds you to a collection of souls trapped in the digital dark. A marriage vow that binds not until death, but beyond it, chaining you to centuries of searching for the next victim to pass the curse to. And a restaurant where the reservation is permanent, where the menu includes the guests, where no one has left since 1847. These are the stories they don't tell you about Valentine's Day. The ones hidden beneath the roses and chocolates and candlelit dinners. The ones whispered by people who survived, who escaped, who still check their doors every February 14th to make sure nothing has followed them home. Because love, when it twists, when it sours, when it refuses to die, becomes something else entirely. Something hungry. Something desperate. Something that will do anything, cross any boundary, break any rule, violate any sanctity, to avoid being alone. We tell ourselves that Valentine's Day is about connection, about finding that one person who completes us, about never being lonely again. But these stories remind us of a darker truth, that the fear of loneliness can make us accept invitations we shouldn't, trust people we don't know, say yes to things that should terrify us. The woman who opened the chocolate box did so because she was alone and wanted to believe someone remembered her. The woman whose lover came back couldn't turn him away because grief had hollowed her out, made her desperate enough to ignore every warning sign. The man who swiped right was looking for connection in a digital wasteland, never realizing that something was looking back. The woman who accepted the proposal did so because she wanted to believe in fairy tales, in perfect romance, in love at first sight. And the couple who walked into that restaurant? They were running from loneliness, from rejection, from the humiliation of spending another Valentine's Day alone. Loneliness made them vulnerable, and vulnerability made them pray. Perhaps you're watching this alone tonight. Perhaps you're tired of being single. Perhaps you're scrolling through dating apps hoping for a match. Perhaps you're considering accepting an invitation from someone you barely know. Perhaps you're thinking that anything, absolutely anything, would be better than another year alone. If you are, these stories are for you. These warnings. These reminders that some connections are better left unmade. That some loves are better left unfound. That some Valentine's Days are better spent alone than in the company of something that only pretends to be human. Because the chocolate box is still out there, finding new recipients every February. The binding ring still exists, passed from bride to bride, anchor to anchor, never quite destroyed. The dating profile is still swiping, still matching, still hunting for souls complex enough to sustain it. And the restaurant? The restaurant is always accepting reservations, always sending invitations, always hungry. They're waiting, watching, preparing for next Valentine's Day, for the next lonely person who says yes to the wrong invitation. The next desperate soul who opens the wrong door. The next victim who mistakes hunger for love. This Valentine's Day, if you've made it through all 5 of these stories without looking away, without skipping ahead, without giving up, you're braver than most. And if these tales kept you glued to your screen, made your heart race, made you check over your shoulder, then hit that subscribe button. We have hundreds more stories waiting in the dark. Hundreds more warnings. Hundreds more nightmares dressed up as normal, everyday horror. Drop a comment telling us which story terrified you most. Was it the box? The lover? The profile? The vow? The restaurant? Let us know, if you dare. But before you go, before you close this video and return to your normal life, remember this. Love doesn't always die. Sometimes it rots. Sometimes it festers. Sometimes it becomes something that should never have existed in the first place. And sometimes, late at night, when you're alone and lonely and desperate for connection, it knocks on your door. This Valentine's Day, when that knock comes, and it will come, it always does, ask yourself, do you really want to see who's on the other side? Or would you rather stay alone, stay safe, stay alive? Because in the end, loneliness might hurt, might ache, might make you feel like you're missing something essential. But at least loneliness won't trap you in a box that never stops filling. Won't drag you to a grave that opens from the inside. Won't absorb you into a network that never lets you go. Won't bind you to centuries of searching for 7 more victims. Won't serve you as the main course at an eternal dinner. At least loneliness lets you stay yourself. Lets you stay human. Lets you stay free. Now go check who sent you those flowers. Check that dating match you've been talking to. Check the invitation that arrived with no return address. Check the ring your perfect partner just gave you. Check the reservation you made for Valentine's dinner at that new restaurant everyone's talking about. We'll wait. And if everything checks out, if it's all normal, if there's nothing sinister hiding beneath the romance, then we'll see you next time. Because there are always more stories. More warnings. More nightmares disguised as love. Happy Valentine's Day. And remember, love doesn't always die, even when it should.